Welcome to Long Pond, Pennsylvania, to the ISOWC Pocono 500, the third round of the 2015 ISOWC Championship. Drivers have already qualified. They are lined up on the starting grid, ready to get racing. Will Vincent, along with Aaron Likens, along for the ride. Let's run yourself through your starting grid for tonight's event, where it will be Mikel de Jong starting on pole position in the Mad Cape and One design car. Chad Simpson alongside him on the front row of the grid. Just 14 one-thousandths of a second separating those two top drivers. And it's a Mad Cape top three with Andreas Warner in third, Matt Strand running out your outside row number 2. Nick Rowland for Banchiolo Sport in 5th, Vic Cordell in 6th, Rachel Whiteford 7th, and Eric Davis in the 8th position, with Leonardo Matos in 9th, Kelber Mura in 10th, then Gorka Nudrox, Andrew Kinsella, Dave Jinks, Felipe Lebert, Marco Brazil, Martin Nagel-Kirkin, Derek Kynes, Andy DeRuta, Oakley Hungham, Benjamin Gregory rounding out your top 20. There you can see the rest of the field coming up on your screens. That pace car begins to pull itself away here at Pocono. And Aaron, well, it's good to have you back. We know Pocono to be one thing, a tricky triangle.
Tricky triangle indeed, and with this new car, it's been a little bit trickier. This track is so easy to pass on that if the leaders want to, you could really swap the lead 2-3 times a lap in with the lap times here, 200 separating first to third, but it is going to be an incredible battle mid-pack from 7th on back to 17th, well, make it 16th, separated by only 700ths of a second. So it's tricky, but when you have that many cars close together and you add the dirty air, well, coming off of turn 1 can be very tricky, because by the time you realize in trouble, well, that wall's going to jump up and bite you.
Got ourselves a number of onboards for today's event. We've got one with Andreas Warner right on board of him. There you can see him starting towards the front of the field. Got one also with Nick Rowland just a couple of places back in that Banchiolo Sport number 17 car. Marco Brazil in the Forza Brazil racing car. The 812 car's got herself from on board. Then Rachel Whiteford in the number 7 GoDaddy car with an on board with her. Vic Cordell finally in that number 33 machine. And the Sundrop car on board with him here today. Pace car currently working itself now on the exit of turn number 2. Getting ourselves set to go racing for 200 laps around this, the magnificent Pocono Raceway on RaceSpotTV. And don't forget, we'll be with you throughout the course of the season here on RaceSpotTV, your official home for some of the biggest events in all of sim racing. There's your field then, heading themselves down through turn number 3. As soon as that pace car comes in, we will be set to go racing in the ISOWC Pocono 500. That pace car going to make that dart now down on towards pit road. There you can see it comes in 500 miles. We'll start right now.
Little jumbled there, 4 wide in the back, so it will be interesting to see if anybody gets a black flag there or somebody got to a slow start. They were 4 wide across the line and 3 wide into the turn 1 mid-pack. You don't want to do that. Oh, so close, Will.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits of dicing going on there. Vic Cordell's moved himself a couple of positions up at the start of this race. Your field working themselves down towards turn number 2 for the first time. Right on board then with Vic Cordell. As you can see ahead of him, who leads the lead change, Chad Simpson to the front of the field. But Vic Cordell going to try and make a move now on the 08 Kia Patron car of Andreas Warner down to the inside into the turn number 3. He comes, and Vic Cordell will move him up a spot in that DHL Sundrop car. So big movers in your race so far. Vic Cordell up into 3rd place, but Chad Simpson now leads away with this event. But back comes de Jong down to the inside, back down in towards turn number 1. Side by side, de Jong goes back to the point, Aaron.
Yeah, some incredible stuff. I mentioned he can change the lead, and I don't think they're done yet. They're passing again. Well, do these drivers know that this is a 500-mile race?
I'm not quite sure. They are still 2 wide. So they come down in towards turn 2 once again. He's back down to the inside. Goes Chad Simpson. He takes that lead away. As you can see just ahead of him, Vic Cordell and Warner. They are still battling out a little bit further down in your pack. Look at this. Eric Davis, Nick Rowland involved in the battle with Matt Strand right now. Rushing up high is that driver of Eric Davis. They work themselves towards the start-finish line once again. Right on board with that driver of Eric Davis as they work themselves down in towards turn number 1 once again. And well, Davis has got company from Rachel Whiteford on his outside, but we cycle that camera back around. Look how close he is to the rear Rick Clonan through turn number 1.
And Rachel thinking about going 3 wide down the inside. That's probably not going to work, but what we're seeing there, that outside line, you can really get a good run. So if you can hold a car off to the inside, this track, if you can maintain that outside line, you are going to have a run out of the corner.
Yeah, and the part and parcel of that even is the track conditions. It's 65 degrees. It's got a very relative humidity of 76%. It's overcast, and there's a nice little wind going down that front straightaway. We've got our first yellow of the day here, and it is Marco Brazil upside down and around. Leonardo Santos involved in that one as well, Aaron.
And Deldrick Kynes as well. So a multiple car incident off of turn number 3. And I'm gonna, before we even see a replay, I'm gonna say contact was the precipitator. Turn 3 is where we're gonna see a lot of car contact, and indeed, yes, that was the cause.
Yeah, Deldrick Kynes there involved in what it started off being a 2-car incident, but you can see just a little bit further back, here is Marco Brazil, and well, unfortunately, one driver couldn't make it through, and that was Leonardo Santos in that 208 car, upside down and around, and well, his day is done very early on in this race. And we're going to get another on board with him, actually, just to show you just how crazy it was. And the part of this is just how packed up this field is. It's very difficult to slow down, especially in turn 3, Aaron. You get off the gas, but that back end wants to kind of step out on you. I think that Santos thought he was past the incident. He slows down, he gets out the gas, and by that point, he's still turning. He's no way he can move himself into another line.
Yeah, no way at all. And I don't know what happened to Marco's car. I don't know if he caught the ridge, or just caught some dirty air, but that car just shot to the right and slowed up. So I don't know if the car bottomed out. Something definitely happened to Marco's car to slow him up that much. Not exactly sure what, but something odd happened there, and unfortunately for the cars behind, nowhere to go.
Yeah, there you can see the Forza Brazil racing car of Marco Brazil having himself a bit of a barbecue on pit road. Deldrick Kynes in a Vortex Sim racing car, looking as though he might be able to get that car back out onto the racetrack. And Leonardo Santos, well, that car is pretty well damaged. Out front, it is still this driver in second place. It's Chad Simpson. He started off today's race in second place. He's currently running in second place. As you can see, those lights are up above your ISOWC.com first safety car. That means we're going to take you side by side for the first time in today's event, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, the NASCAR PCAN Series lives on iRacing Live and on RaceSpotTV. If you're a new member to iRacing, use the promo code that you see on your screen to get iRacing for just $12 for your first 3 months. That includes all the free content, the 4GT, that promo code that you see up on your screen. Well, out front is currently Mikel de Jong, who's led himself 3 laps here today. Chad Simpson's led 2. They're the only 2 race leaders on the apex of turn 3, as they have to put that power down.
And that can very easy catch some of the drivers out. But one thing to note before we do go back to green, should we get a long green flag run, we did have the back 5 cars make a pit stop, so they'll be able to go 5 laps longer. And how often do we see a yellow in the midst of a green flag pit stop? But another thing here, if second place gets a good restart, really the leader is almost a sitting duck going into turn 2 with the draft here. The draft is so great, and with the humidity the way it is, I think we're going to see the draft play even a bigger part. So on restarts, the leader's going to have to time it right, or they're going to be a sitting duck going into the tunnel turn.
Well, here we are then. Pace car going to work itself down on towards pit road. The field is stuck up behind Mikel de Jong. Pace car coming down onto pit road. Green flag back in the air here then as we go back to racing in the ISOWC Pocono 500. And it's a pretty good start by your top. In fact, your top 10 drivers each getting themselves a good start there. It's Benjamin Gregory down in P13 with the issue. And we've got a car turnaround there. That is Nell McBride as he's going to get that car pointing out. We are back to yellow. It's a number 98 car of Kevin Ellis Jr. involved in that one as well. Restart, cautions, breed, cautions, Aaron.
Yes, we do, and actually we're going to lose about a quarter of the field here as at least 4 cars are going to be knocked out. What happened here, somebody went and somebody didn't, and cars went to the inside. Of course, you can't pass to the left before the line, and you got the accordion effect there, and it looked like Stuart Pomfrey, first car to make contact, veered to the right, hit McBride, hit Oakley Higham, and behind him, let's see, who is that comes through that gets launched into the air. Kevin Ellis Jr. also launched skyward, so a major incident here that's going to take out about 20-25% of the field.
Yeah, big incident then on the restart here in the ISOWC Pocono 500. You can see drivers trying to avoid it, and even though it's such a wide front straightaway here, you got yourself Niall McBride involved in it. There you can see him. You've got yourself Stuart Pomfrey involved in the rear end of your shot, and you've also got Kevin Ellis Jr. in the number 98 car upside down in that Logitech machine. Tough day for him. McBride has been able to keep that car going. You've got Andy DeRuta, who does look as though he was just about able to get that car through without any incident. Let's get ourselves one more look at that one then from Stuart Pomfrey's point of view, and this is coming himself ready to the green flag here. And well, it was just one of those moments where he just
well, I listening to Andrew Kinsella was slow to get on the gas. I just wonder, maybe he didn't change his fuel setting before the green, and when he went to power, there was none.
Wow. And it's very easy to do that. We must admit, it is very easy to do that one. But you wouldn't expect that. Well, first caution of the day for some of these drivers is the first caution of their season. And it's one of those things you sometimes just got to remember. And unfortunately for that driver, just looked as though he made himself one very silly mistake.
And seeing over the race chatter, that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
So he's still in the race. He's going to have several drivers that aren't going to be too happy, but that's just one of those things. It is such a wide track that I say this so often, there's no reason to be right behind somebody. You can start a little off center of somebody, so if you do have to take an escape route, you have somewhere to go. That also helps you up front. We see this so often. People get right underneath the rear wing of the leader, and what good is that you're gonna do? You can't go till they go. You want to sort of start a little just off center that gives you an escape route, and had some of the drivers given themselves an out, I don't think we would have an incident there.
Our aerial coverage today is brought to you by And One Designs. We'll work ourselves under our second caution of the day here at Pocono Raceway. We'll be back in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the second round of the 2015 Verizon IndyCar Series sees drivers head to NOLA Motorsports Park. That will be tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on the NBC Sports Network in America. If you live in Europe, you can catch that on the ESPN player. And well, Aaron, we are looking forward to an interesting first race at NOLA, because it's a rather different road track.
Oh, very different. I was looking it up on Google Earth earlier today, and interesting layout. It is in the middle of nowhere, but I think the track design itself, I think with the long front straightaway and some of the bends, I think it's going to be a very racy racetrack. So in the middle of the swamp, but I think don't count that against the track. I think it's going to provide for some excellent action tomorrow.
Leonardo Santos has got his car back out onto the racetrack. He's currently scored in the 24th position in that 2:08 car. Currently 21 drivers remaining in this race. Santos is scored 5 laps down. Green flag back in the air. We are back to racing in the ISOWC Pocono 500. 2 cautions early on, and what a jump there that De Jong and Simpson got there. 2 wide behind them as they down into turn on 1 for the first time. We ran on board Rachel Whiteford as she's got herself Eric Davis just literally alongside her, almost as they work themselves out of turn number 2. We just see that in the foreground as well. Vic Cordell, high line, low line. Anyway, once again, they're going to go 3 wide into 2. Oh!
That's not going to work. Thankfully, they get down 2 wide. Still 2 wide here is dicey, but that all started from Vic getting an awful restart, allowing Andreas Werner around him right at the line. Great timing by Werner to not get a black flag there, but Vic, awful restart, tried to cross over and really put himself in no man's land there, and net loss of only 1 on the lap, but could have been worse.
Nick Rowland alongside Rachel Whiteford down towards turn number 1. They come! Oh, Rowland! Rowland into the wall, upside down and around he goes. And that will be our 3rd caution of the day. Very early here as we're riding along board with Nick Rowland. Let's get ourselves a replay of that one. Alongside Whiteford now. Rowland's been out of competition for quite a while. And I think for a moment there, you might have just understood. That is why over racing can be very difficult. You got to get yourself back to very close quarters racing. And he made contact there, Rachel Whiteford down in turn 1. Super slow-mo replay coming up. Aaron, talk us through it.
Yeah, this is one of those moments that you can go, could the outside car give a little bit room? Could the inside car maybe give a little bit more room? That's one of the things, just maybe the slightest contact, maybe just took the air off the wing there. I mean, the just lightest of touches there. That inside really is deceiving on entry. It looks like you can turn in a little bit sooner than not, but you do have to wait, and it's very bumpy down there. So cars on the inside want to stay a little bit higher, but man, that's a tough one to call. Just the slightest of, might have just taken the air off the wing just slightly there. And
that is nothing of Rachel Whiteford's fault at all there. She had the inside line. Now, Rowland, on that replay, you saw Aaron, that his car just basically, it just, talk about the air being given away, it just got loose in the centre of the corner. Now, that could be a mixture of things. The air, also, he could have been running potentially a little bit too much anti-roll bar or weight jacket on that car, trying to get it to turn into turn number 1. He's got bumps down on that inside line, but you've also got a couple of bumps on that second groove as well. And if it just catches one of those wrong angle, back end steps out, if you've not been used to running oval, well, you're a passenger.
Yeah, and the rear end definitely stepped out well before, so the air on these cars, first lap after a restart, cold tires can amplify that situation. And once the rear end starts to skid in an IndyCar, more times than not, it's going to end with a crash.
Yeah, and there you can see Nick Rowland out of his car, likely going to be classified as out of the race. That Banshee Autosport number 17 car is severely damaged, and that is not what he would have wanted early on in this event. We're going to hopefully get a word with Rachel Whiteford actually in just 1 moment's time. To say, really, you can't put anything on Whiteford on that. She had the inside line down into the corner. She is still circulating on the racetrack, and we will try. And we'll say we'll try. We'll try and get a word with Rachel. Rachel, it's Will Vincent, RaceSpotTV. You hate me, but are you there? I think the answer is no, Aaron.
I guess, maybe, well, you said, do you hate me? So maybe the answer to that one potentially is yes, but definitely not there.
Yeah, so we'll try and get a word with Rachel Whiteford a little bit later on in this event. They can see her, though, in the number 7 GoDaddy.com car.
Might be a little front wing damage there, Will.
Yeah, we'll try and get a look from our aerial coverage. This might give us the best look of it. Brought to you today by And One Design. Now, we're just having a look there.
Yeah, definitely. The right front in play is askew there.
Yeah, and this is one of the issues with this car that she's got, is that it's very difficult to see, but we'll get the yellow pen out and we'll just show you right about, it's the right hand side. It's just very small, but you can see there's just a little bit of damage right about there, Aaron. And well, it will affect her if she's in dirty air. Might not if she gets into some clean traffic.
Well, this restart, you're going to be surrounded by dirty air, so if her crew chief, crew team, somebody doesn't let her know to change that, it's not going to just be bad for her potentially, but for all the cars behind her, because when you hit that dirty air, you're going to have to lift off the gas immediately. And as we saw with our first incident with Marco, if that happens in turn 3, there can be nowhere for anybody else to go. So well, the next yellow flag could unfortunately be brewing here.
Yep, cautions breed cautions. And well, it'll be interesting to see if anyone comes onto pit road this time by. We've had a couple of people make stops so far. Philippe Leber, Vic Cordell, Martin Nicol-Kirkin, Stefan Remedy, Moya, Guruta, Matos, and McBride have all made stops. I don't see anyone coming on pit road this time by. We would, of course, get the one to go signal this time by. And there's the top 8 bottom of the screen.
Yeah, somehow we still show 20 cars on the lead lap, but think the note for the drivers that have pitted, I made note of that on the first yellow of having 4 more laps. Now we are talking 15 laps, which a green flag cycle here is what, Will, about 32 laps or so?
Yes, we've actually got a couple of people on pit road again. Now McBride, Andy Reuter, Vic Cordell on pit road. They're playing the long game here. And this is the thing with Pocono. If you get yourself into a green sequence, then the field gets spreads out very quickly. And that will mean is that drivers generally will come on. The only time we have incidents if people come on pit road together, or if one person tags them all by themselves. So they can see Vic Cordell, short top off for him. Martin Nicol-Kirkin, short top off in that Aero X racing car. McBride, short stop for him. Andy DeRuta, 8.3 seconds in a no-nonsense racing car. And that is basically half a stint now. We are into a pure split strategy mode.
Yeah, and I really like pitting right now. I love that strategy. Will it pay out? Well, eventually this race is going to go green. We are going to get a long green flag cycle. That will happen. Eventually there just aren't going to be enough cars to have a yellow. Hopefully we don't get to that point. But I think pitting right now about halfway through a cycle, which this track, even under yellow, you are going to burn some fuel here. So if we do get a green flag run, well, we are going to have a very split cycle. And if that goes to the end, well, it's going to get very entertaining to figure out who's got what.
Yeah, there's a look then. The drivers circle themselves through turn number 3. Your front 2 drivers, Mikel de Jong and Chad Simpson. Now, it does look as though that Mad Cape and One Design car are absolutely dominant here. They've been good on the road courses. This could be an important race for them if they can survive this event. Pace car back on towards pit road. The field back in the command of de Jong. Green flag once in the air. As here we can see de Jong giving himself a good run with Simpson as they come down in towards turn number 1. Once again, there is Matt Strand down in P number 4. But look at the run. That's what we're talking about. The run that these cars get through turn number 1. Look at Strand just closing up through that central turn number 1. Right on board with the driver right behind him. That's Eric Davis. And we just see that pull effect is insane here, Aaron.
I don't know if the weather has anything to do with it, but we've seen that in the past. It is just a huge run-up, but wow, I think this is the biggest draft effect I think we've ever seen.
And here we can...
And we've got contact in 3. There goes Eric Davis.
Oh, Eric Davis, and here we can see him there. Matt Strand's involved. Matt Strand's involved, and this is one of our favourites of the event, Aaron.
Oh, turn 3 strikes again. The problem is it is such a wide corner, but by the time you get to the apex, it funnels down. I think Eric Davis had position there. Matt Strand, wow, I don't know. There was a car in the inside, and this is, again, one of those times you can say inside car could have lifted, outside car could have maybe not, but at a 500-mile race, these drivers are racing like it is a absolute sprint race, and further contact. Rachel Whiteford further damaged that front wing on George Newchuck's rear, damaged his rear wing, so some more casualties. Both of those cars are going to be able to continue, but my goodness, this race just can't get going.
Yeah, well, there you can see Eric Davis. He does survive, and he comes back out onto the racetrack. We'll step aside for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We shall be back after this.
What is it about speed? Do these rivals chase speed because they can? Or because they can't help it? IndyCar. The heart of racing. Go to IndyCar.com for live timing and scoring, upcoming race details, and to join the conversation.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun.
Cautions have dominated in the early going here in the ISOWC Pocono 500, and well, this is what happens occasionally, Aaron. You get yourself a caution in the early going, and from there on in, this field gets bunched up, and starts are incredibly difficult here. Those first couple laps, especially the draft, but Race Control have decided to clamp on down now to these drivers and say, look, calm it the hell down.
Yeah, 500 miles, and we are driving like it is a sprint car race at Eldora 30 laps. That's really what we've seen. It's just been a slugfest. There has been absolutely no give, all take, and somehow, I do say somehow, we still have 20 cars on the lead lap.
Indeed, so there is a look, by the way, at your field. Our aerial coverage today brought to you by And One Design, official graphics partner of the ISOWC IndyCar Series. When we go back to green, we'll be joined by Nick Rowland. He'll have a little chat with us as there you saw front two drivers. It's Mikel de Jong, Chad Simpson, of course. In that last caution, we did lose ourselves a big contender for the race win. That was a Matt Strand. He hasn't got himself back out onto the racetrack, however. So we have got ourselves a chance to get him back up through your field. Here is your top 8 right now. It's de Jong from Simpson, from Warner, Davis, Norgux, Wakeford, Gregory and Smith. That pace car working itself through turn number 3. When they were turn 4 is, it doesn't exist. This is Pocono. We'll ride this restart from along the rear then of that driver. And Mikel de Jong, green flag back in the air once again.
And a little bit of a stack up and potentially contact further in the back. Chad Simpson, though, for the lead, going to the inside, and that's what I was talking about. If second place gets a good jump, the leader here is a sitting duck. Very reminiscent of what we have seen at Indy in previous years.
Yep, cars working themselves down towards turn number 2. Once again, a little bit of too-wide racing. You can see Scott W. Smith looking as though he wants to get himself a car down to the inside. That is going to be, 2 cars in the space of 1 corner. That is Felipe Berg, that number 16 car. We have a look from the rear of him in that Vortex Sim Racing. Number 16 car, down into turn number 3. They come once again. And, well, it's been a cleaner restart. Are we allowed to say that yet? Why as they head themselves out the final corner? Yes, they complete a lap, Aaron.
Hey, green flag lap, and up front we're going to have another lead change. So if we stay green well, hopefully we can stay green and say that we're going to see some marvelous racing up front. Oh, so close there on the cutback. Wow, the leader's just about touched.
Yeah, there is Chad Simpson in the Satellite Mad Cape and 1 design car through turn number 2. They come once again, and Chad Simpson goes back to the point. Drafting is the order of the day here. Well, that means these drivers have got to be comfortable running 2 wide on the racetrack. As we have a look then down towards turn number 3, they come once again. It's a number 95 machine we're focusing on right now. Gork Nujoks. He is, of course, no stranger to the ISOWC, currently running himself in P number 6. As he's trying to hunt down that number 7 machine, and Rachel Whiteford ahead of her. Don't forget, Whiteford has got herself a little bit of damage to her race car. Nordrick's looking to the high side. Through turn number 1, they come once again. But it looks like this field is starting to slowly settle down all the way out front, side by side. Once again, down and towards turn number 2, they come, Aaron.
Yeah, settling down, I don't think is going to be on the menu quite yet. We got the top 8 nose to tail. And from what I've seen, none of these drivers are content running at where they want. So, big slowdown. Davis to the inside. That was some good reflexes there. That could have been another incident in turn 3.
There you can see Davis in that 4th position. The Banshee Autosport car down towards turn 1. Now, the issue for him will be down into turn 1. He'll have less speed. He'll need to figure out his braking. Oh, he's going to lift off the gas, but he's going to run a little bit high out the corner. He's got himself a great run, though, over Andreas Warner as they work themselves out of turn 1. There you can see Davis moves himself up 1 position. Rachel Whiteford's right there behind him, just ahead. They're continuing to battle for the race lead. Simpson and De Jong. We are joined at this time by Nick Rowland. He was out in a caution a little bit earlier on. And Nick, tough luck in your first real ISOWC event in a while. But, well, it was close.
It was close, yeah. I mean, I had fun at the start. It was good racing up front with those guys. But, yeah, I think a bit of people getting a little bit over-optimistic at the start.
Well, unfortunately, your day has come to a bit of a sorry end, but you had yourself some good pace in qualifying. And here comes Warner. Oh, Warner's going to press up high out of turn number 1 there, Aaron. And he loses 2 positions, but he does keep it on the grey stuff.
That's important there. It's so easy. That's if I were to give the trickiest part of the track, it's the exit of turn 1. If you just as much nip that wrong, it's a one-way ticket to the inside wall and race over. So good move there. Meanwhile, Rachel Whiteford up to the 3rd spot now.
Yeah, so having a look from the rear of Rachel Whiteford down in towards turn 1. Of course, Nick, your incident was with Rachel Whiteford, but just explain the phenomenon of the draft here as we've got Davis and Whiteford going side by side in towards turn number 1.
The draft, you pick it up very, very easily, but you can also understeer far too quickly. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of people, just generally in draft. It's just very, very, very difficult to hold these cars low, and I think that's kind of what's happening with some of these accidents.
Well, it's a shame. Next week we head over to Phoenix. Will we see you there?
Should do, yes.
And would you like to stay around for a bit?
Most GP qualifying.
Okay, you go off to MotoGP qualifying right on board with Scott W. Smith. Nick Rowland, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you can catch him on 2 Dudes, 1 Pint here on RaceSpotTV. Aaron, out front, well, we've got ourselves 5 cars separated by just 1.5 seconds right now. We get that ticker running along the top of your screen, but it is all action right now. And even further back, there you can see you've got yourself Felipe Berg going side by side with Andreas Warner down towards turn number 2.
Yeah, the front 2 have finally broken that draft, which the intense fighting for 3rd has allowed that. Front 2 are going to say, come on, guys, and gal, just keep fighting, let us build up a lead, and that's exactly what's happened. The battle from 3rd on back, though, this is about the fiercest racing you will ever see.
Yeah, as you can see, your field storming themselves past the start-finish line, down in towards turn number 1 they come, and Mikel de Jong is once again leading the way here, although Chad Simpson is going to come back alongside him through turn number 2. We're right on board then with Simpson in that number 42 Satellite Mad Cape and 1 design car, and he now goes back to the race lead.
So 2 changes of the lead in one lap, and let's not make it 3 wise choice there. But this is what I said on the onset. If these drivers want to, as De Jong looks like that dirty air almost caught him out there, had to lift, lost a car length, but you can lift here. That draft, he's going to be up to 231 miles an hour before he lifts on the corner. I think he was looking ahead. Leonardo Santos well off the pace. He gets out of the way. That was some heads up driving there.
Yeah, and Santos looking as though he's going to get himself black flagged there. He's running outside the 110% rule. Side by side right now, you got yourself the number 95 machine of Gordon Newjogs. He is side by side right now with this driver. It is Eric Davis in that Bantioli sports car, and they are still going to be side by side out of turn number 2. Rachel Whiteford right behind them. These drivers have now settled themselves down into a rhythm as Davis is going to lose that position there to Newjogs, but they are losing time. These front 2 drivers are working that draft together, Aaron, and what it means is that they're not slowing each other down. They're not having to back out of the gas. That gap now from Newjogs to the race lead is 2.8 seconds.
If you can time it right, it may look like they're fighting hard, but you can really almost have a leapfrog type mentality. That if you can pass each other where it's not going to hinder either driver, you can really work together. While we're seeing passing for 3rd, 4th, 5th on back, it's actually in places where you're going side by side. Up front, they're passing the lead car, then lifts to let the car get the better apex, and they're really working together, which for 3rd, it's anything but working together at this moment in time.
Yeah, there's a look from Mikel de Jong's front. You can see the race leader, Chad Simpson, right in front of him, although Gordon Newjogs in the 3rd place is now 2.9 seconds back. Down in your field, it does seem to be as if they've calmed it down a little bit. Maybe they've realised what is going on as we ride on board with Rachel Whiteford in that number 7 GoDaddy car. And, well, she is catching up to the rear of Gordon Newjogs. Will she go down to the inside into turn number 3? Yes, she will. And that will mean that Whiteford's now back up into 3rd place. Although it'll be interesting to see whether she allows Newjogs to go back past if she gets a better run, as they're going to be side by side down towards turn number 1, and Newjogs does have himself the high line there. Whiteford's going to have to tuck back into line, although Davis is to the outside, so they come down in towards turn number 1, and indeed Whiteford does give him the line.
And very smart there, and very good. That was the way you take turn 3 side by side. Rachel kept to the curb, and George kept to the outside. They're going to go side by side in turn 2 yet again, but what we see in turn 3 so often is the car on the inside drifts up, the car on the outside comes 2 lanes down. What we saw that last lap was the way it's supposed to be done in turn 3.
Yeah, looking at Martin Egelkirchen, he is in the 14th place right now. He is moved himself up 3 spots in this event so far, although he has got himself the driver of Stefan Remedy right in front of them as they head themselves out of corner number 3 down towards start-finish line once again. And here's a look then. Egelkirchen will get that inside line, so work themselves down in towards turn number 1. Once again, the AeroX Racing OMR car of Egelkirchen is going to get himself back past Remedy. Further ahead, you can see Benjamin Gregory as Whiteford's going to try and make a move as well. This is down in towards turn number 3. Rattling on board with that number 95 car of Gordon Newjogs as Rachel Whiteford goes past her. But Newjogs' car does seem to like to work on that outside line. This could be useful come race's end, Aaron.
Yeah, the last lap, he went from 5th to 3rd on the main straightaway. So that was from the finish line to turn 1. Then he lost a position. Now he's going to go back up to 3rd. And, well, if history repeats itself, Rachel's going to get a good draft here through the apex. Going to drift a little high. Let's see if she can slingshot. No, now it's going to be Eric Davis who's maybe going to be able to capitalize. No, not quite. And that's what we saw there. If the 3rd driver in line tries to pull out, they lose the advantage of the draft. So keep that in mind. If we get to the end game, if we get to the final lap and we do have a scrap like this, oh man, I don't know if I want to be the leader headed to turn 2 on the final lap. I don't know if you can do anything.
Yeah, and here's the look then. 360 kilometers an hour, so work themselves on the front straight away. Here comes Ryan Whiteford. Will tuck in line this time by, although Davis is going to look down to him inside. No, they're looking as though they're finally going line of stern down in towards turn number 1. They have lost now. That gap to the front is 3.8 seconds. They head themselves behind the trees through turn number 1, down in towards turn 2. Whiteford now going to look back down to the inside as we ride along board then with Newjogs once again. Here comes Whiteford down to his inside in towards turn number 2. And that was a little bit close there, but Whiteford has that inside line into turn number 3. Now look at Newjogs. He should lose 2 positions once again in towards turn number 3. And, well, actually, again, Newjogs is working that outside line very well.
I have to wonder if Rachel's wing damage is slowing down the top end speed, so she's able to be in the draft just fine, but anytime she gets out front, she immediately gets past. So I wonder if that wing damage is slowing it down in clean air. When she's right up behind somebody, the front really isn't doing that much, but when she's out front, boy, she just can't hold the position.
Yeah, as we have a look a little bit further down in your field, here you can see Stefan Remedy and Martin Nigel-Kirken. They are scrapping it out fourth positions right now, as they have been for the last couple of laps. Remedy back down to the inside of Nigel-Kirken, down towards turn number 2. He moves himself back up into that 12th space, and actually just behind Andy DeRuta is in the mix as well in that 020 couple. Oh, so close to the outside there. Will go Nigel-Kirken in towards turn number 3. These drivers taking some big risks in the early going. Now, you do notice as this field will settle itself down, these tyres will start to fall off as, Warner with Labour down towards turn number 1. They made contact. They keep going. Warner around the outside, but that was almost a heart-stopping moment for both Warner and also Labour as well. That was incredibly close, Aaron.
Yeah, and I think the dreaded bumps caught Warner. I think his car completely just bottomed out, shot up, and...
car on the wall. That is someone. Gorg Nudrox is in the wall. He's put his car on towards pit road. So Gorg Nudrox has hit the wall somewhere. This would have been down in turn number 3, we believe, but he's brought his car onto pit road. It does look as though we do stay green for the time being. Replay up on your screen. And Aaron, let's figure out what happened.
And the dreaded turn 3, I said before, that's the way you're supposed to do it. That time, not so much. Just contact. George, I thought Rachel was going to be a lane further down. She was not. George turns right into the side of her car, and I do not know how many times that incident has been replayed on this racetrack. That is a very typical incident.
Yeah, as Newgotch is going to get himself a long pit stop there. They can see him on pit road all the way down in P number 19 right now. Got ourselves 18 drivers scored on the lead lap. Leonardo Santos has put his car back onto pit road. Looks like that he is done for the time being. They can see him. Got himself black flagged by race control earlier for being too far off the pace. 5 seconds a lap down. Gap between De Jong in second place and the rest of your field, well, that's 5.1 seconds right now, and we are down really to 2 drivers in your front pack, 2 drivers in your second pack, as De Jong pushing a little bit high there off the corner number 3. As these tyres fall away, turn 3 gets harder and harder, but also it becomes easier and easier to take this track flat out, as now Davis will have Whitefoot down to his inside, down in towards turn number 1. Right behind you got yourself Lambert and also Warner. They go side by side down in towards turn number 1, and Philippe, well, he's going to get that inside line over Andreas Warner by the looks of it, although Warner gets himself a much better run off of turn number 1. He holds that outside line down into 2.
And it is so scary when you are that car on the outside and you do want to keep that run. You are just praying that that inside car doesn't get aero push and doesn't hit the bumps. You stay in the gas, and you're just gripping the steering wheel, hoping you don't feel that all dreaded thud of that car on the inside touching your car. And when it works properly and you get that amazing run, oh, it feels great. But here comes Lambert down to the inside. Let's play this game yet again.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note as well that these drivers will have to come onto pit road in the next 10 laps at maximum. We had ourselves 4 cautions in the early going, been green ever since, but we will have green flag pit stops coming along soon. So the drivers who have pitted in this event will cycle back through to the front of this field. This is going to become interesting, Aaron.
Yeah, I believe Ed Caudell is our first driver. He's running 9th. I think he is our first driver that has made a pit stop. I could be wrong.
Lambert has made a pit stop. I'm not sure exactly when he did, though.
So the split strategy is about to play out. Now, with that strategy, one thing, the leader's pace is ferocious. The front 2 are running .7s. Third place running, well, 0.3, so 0.6 of a second as we have a car coming out of the pits. Benjamin Gregory back on the racetrack, and that was a scary moment. Pit road here spits you out right into the apex of turn 1.
Yeah, as they can see, Gregory down in the 20th position right now in that Avid Chronic racing car. He continues to circulate on the racetrack, but is now scored 5 laps down to the race leader. Morgan Udrox is still on pit road. There you can see him. He is making what is a very long stop to try and get some repairs to
Davis and Whiteford in.
And there you can see they're both coming onto pit road and a little bit hot there for both of those drivers. There is Rachel Whiteford, and you can see alongside is Eric Davis onto pit road. It's a busy place on pit road. You've got Andrew Cancilla on pit road, as is Scott W. Smith. Well, welcome to Split Strategy World, Aaron.
And it's gonna, for these drivers that did pit, it's gonna be interesting. The way it pays off is if this race goes green the rest of the way, the drivers that pitted on our most recent yellow, if they can do one less pit stop, that could be enough to steal this race win. Long ways. We still have 158 laps to go from that point in time as Chad Simpson into the pits.
Yeah, as Whiteford and Davis come back out onto the racetrack. These drivers have got to be careful. If they do merge too early, then they will get themselves a black flag. They are supposed to run the inside line through turn number 1. You can see Andrew Cancilla coming back out onto the racetrack in that number 14 machine as he works himself again on that inside line through turn number 1. But you've now got yourself Simpson on pit road. There you can see him in that satellite car back out onto the racetrack. Pit stop time for him, 10.4 seconds. Right on board with him then as he works himself back out onto this 2.5 mile tricky triangle. And well, that is what you have to do, run that inside line, Aaron, because if you're on the high line, then guys coming out of turn number 1 see a slow car, not necessarily aware of it, it can cause even more issues than if you just run that low line.
Yeah, it's much, and another thing, drivers that don't have much experience will try to get out of the way. So they will run that high line, they'll run their normal line, and then they'll look in their mirror and go, uh-oh, here come the leaders, I need to get out of the way. And so often when you try to get out of the way, you're going to move into the line that the leaders are trying to get to. It's much easier to avoid a stationary, constant object than it is one that's trying to get out of the way. So if you just hug that bottom, most of the time you're going to be fine. Don't go up and then come down. The leaders, that's just a recipe for a disaster.
And this is the reason why C. De Jong's made himself a pit stop. But this allows two faster cars to take that outside line. It's safer for all parties concerned. Now, De Jong has lost the position now to Matt Strand and Chad Simpson ahead of him as they are both back circulating on the racetrack. Philippe Leber currently leads this race. Andres Warner back out onto the racetrack, as you can see there. He has worked himself through turn number 2. That's Eric Davis and Rachel Whiteford just ahead of him on the racetrack. So we've had ourselves our first green flag pit stop. So Stefan Remedy is currently scored, is working himself ahead of Martin Egelkirchen down in towards turn number 2. And well, it's very gloomy here today at Pocono. It gives it a kind of almost wrestling style feel to it, how dark and gloomy it is.
Yeah, I've been to this track when it's gloomy, and the way the mountains are around this racetrack, when it's cloudy, this track, it's just ominous. It's just, as you said, I mean, it's just that eerie, ominous sensation, and I guess the start of this race is fitting to the way the weather is here today.
Back through your pack, Mikel de Jong versus Chad Simpson. This one is carrying on. So Simpson leads the battle between these two drivers, although there's just 2 tenths per second. And here's a look at then at the top line speed, and de Jong looks as though he's staying in line for the time being there.
Staying in line, which right now, they really are. Right now, really fighting isn't going to get them anywhere. We are in the middle of a strategy, so the last thing they want to see is a yellow. And the worst thing when you don't want a yellow is to, well, what's worse than that is being the yellow. Other thing, it's never too early about starting to talk about saving fuel. They've built up a lead, so if they can somewhat work together and sort of save fuel together, that too will be very beneficial to both parties.
Andy DeRuta on pit road in that no-nonsense racing car. There you are. Got it right the third time as he's going a very long stop. Speeding penalty there then for DeRuta, and it's so easy to have at this racetrack, Aaron, because you come out of turn number 3, and from then on in, you pretty much have to slow that car down right at the last moment. And for DeRuta, well, it looks as though that he is going to pay the price. It's going to be a long stop. 30.3 seconds he comes back out onto the racetrack.
A very long penalty there, and it is easy. We saw several drivers come in hot and they immediately dropped their car to about 40-35 miles an hour, because it isn't necessarily your speed, it's the average speed over timing line. So if you come in hot, you got to drop that speed really low to lower that average across the lines. That's why if you do watch some of these races, you'll see people come in, if the speed limit's 55 and they're doing 65 and they don't get a penalty, and you're wondering what just happened. Well, they lowered their average speed before that timing line, and some tracks are more forgiving than others. If that first timing line is really close to the cones, it can be hard to do so. But if you have a wide gap, you can be a little aggressive on entry and get away with it.
The issue for DeRuta was he clipped the curb on the exit of turn number 3. Now, that would have been okay normally, but the back end of that car got unsettled, and that meant that he couldn't slow that car down without risking that car just spearing to the left-hand side of the racetrack into that hard Armco barrier. And because of that, he got himself a speeding penalty. He is now classified all the way down in the 17th position on the racetrack. That's a net loss of nothing, because that is where he started today's race. Philippe Lambert then currently leads the way in this field. 50 laps out of 200 scored complete in the ISOWC Pocono 500. We will be back after this message.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun.
Truex in the outside, contact made, 56 slides it at a 4, who's going to be at the stripe? Dead even, give it to Ryan Truex. Truex is your winner over Tandy.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series lives on RaceSpotTV. A couple more drivers on pit road right now. Martin Eagle-Kirkham is our latest victim of a speeding penalty. He's had himself a long pit stop, 26.6 seconds, as he now comes back out onto the racetrack. But the world's biggest sim racing events live on RaceSpotTV. And you know what, Aaron? Let's give ourselves a little bit of something to look forward to, shall we? I'm just going to do the math in my head here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks' time, you and I are recording the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500.
One of the marquee events of the year, and any driver that wins that race, any driver that runs the IndyCar, you can win a league championship, you can win official series, you can win official races. But there's one race every driver wants to win, and that is the official Indy 500. So some of the hardest fought racing, and just qualifying for that event is an honor, and anybody that makes that race can win that race. That makes it one of the more thrilling events that we witness all season long, all year long.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's a race that transcends the IndyCar boundaries. You had, don't forget, Ray Alfaro scoring himself a podium victory in his first Indy 500 attempt back in 2010. That race was won by Justin Delson as he rode on board with Mikel de Jong. We've also had ourselves Tim Dorr, Young O, two fantastic battles over 2 years in 2011, 2012, 2013. Saw ourselves, well, what I can only
we got a yellow.
Pure pandemonium. We are under yellow. The reason why is Andres Warner, Tequila Patron car, it's just had himself a big incident there, Aaron.
And we've got another car involved, and the turn one wall strikes again. Matt Strand who was a little bit damaged, caught a little bit of dirty air, and really, I think he bottomed out as well. I haven't seen cars react like this before, this severe, but for Andreas Warner, absolutely nothing he could do.
Nope. As you can see there, we're riding on board with Warner. We'll get ourselves another look from Matt Strand's perspective. This is heading himself down through turn number 1. Then, as you can see here, just tags the wall, and then from then on, he's along for the ride. He just tags that wall just a little bit, and Warner had no way of checking out. We'll get ourselves one more look at this one then. From Matt Strand's perspective, you can see that air just gets washed up in him, Aaron. Through turn number 1, he runs it high into that grey stuff, and he hits that wall. He tries to get himself back going, and Warner, nowhere to go.
And another view you might want to take a look at, well, Rachel Whiteford. It's a miracle she is still in this race. The two cars touch, the seas part, and all of a sudden, she's gained a spot. My goodness, really, when it's your day, it is your day. What a turn of events there for her. That could have been race over in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we just saw that on board with Rachel Whiteford in that number 7 GoDaddy machine. So we are under caution once again here in the ISOWC IndyCar Series. Now, this will be interesting as far as strategy goes, Aaron.
Yeah, it's been about 14 laps since our leaders pitted. So do you pit now? We know if you're in the back. Well, if you're in the back in the leaders pit, I think you got to stay out. If the leaders pit, or whatever the leaders do, if you're in the back, you do the opposite. Leaders are staying out. So I think the split strategy game is going to continue on as, wow, that's going to be interesting there as Rachel Whiteford and Eric Davis make contact. Rachel late to commit to the pits. Davis passed her, and that may get Davis a black flag there.
Yeah, we'll get ourselves another look at this one then, because, well, Davis was onto pit road, and then he had contact from the side. Now, I want to get ourselves another look at this one, actually, because the rule is very simple. You can't dummy onto pit road. You make your decision. Now, Davis had clearly gone onto pit road at this point. Whiteford did she touched the white line, the commit cone. But by that point, let's just have a look here, because oh, well, Whiteford wasn't actually inside the commit line at that point. She would have had to be the one to slow down.
Yeah, that's a I don't know. That's an interesting call there. The speeds for looking at the speed for Rachel, 70 miles an hour, and she turns in and drops down to 60. So that's the reason why Davis got around her, and then they made contact.
Yeah, and here you can see Davis onto pit road, and then Whiteford. Oh, you're gonna have to put that one in Whiteford's corner, I'm gonna have to say, Aaron, because realistically, at that point, Davis was committed to pit road. Whiteford wasn't.
Depending on where the commit lines are, and typically tracks have it where the paint starts, that's where you have to be, and her two tires did clip the start of the pit paint.
Yeah, so it looks as though that Rachel Whiteford will get herself a black flag penalty for that one. But out front, you had yourself Chad Simpson, Mikel de Jong, Philippe Leber not come onto pit road. We have ourselves a couple of drivers who did come on towards pit road, and we've got that split strategy going on once again. And, well, we saw the first part of this race, caution breeding caution. After that, it was a case of more than anything else, green flag running, and a little bit of patience coming into play.
Patience, and it'll be interesting to see on this restart if we continue to see if we can get past those first 5 laps. When we get past those first 5 laps, we are going to be good. But with this draft, if somebody wants to contend with our front two, they are going to have to stay with them early.
As we are going to get ourselves ready for the restart here in just one moment's time. Nigel Kirkin came onto pit road, Davis came onto pit road, Whiteford came onto pit road, Scott W. Smith, Stephen Remedy, they will all come onto pit road from the rear. We'll go back to green flag racing this time by. There you can see out front is Chad Simpson. He's led himself 30 laps here today. Mikel de Jong has led 19 laps. So let's have a look at your biggest movers and shakers in this event so far. Well, Scott W. Smith is up 14 positions. Lambert up into the 3rd place, up 11 positions so far. Here's a look at him in that Vortex Sim Racing number 16 car. as he's moving himself an absolute ton of positions. Remedy having a good race as well. Your biggest loser as well. Warner, of course, was running out front. He was involved in the last caution. He's currently scored on pit road, as we can see him there in that 08 Tequila Patron machine. He is really, really suffered for that one. As here you can see, riding on board there with Andreas Warner, damage to the front end of that car. It's a little bit further back. Philippe Lambert is currently running himself in P number 3. But we're getting ourselves ready back for another restart. And we know, Aaron, got to be careful.
Gotta be oh so careful here for the front two for De Jong and Simpson. Everything's been going their way, but oh, how often do we see when people have a perfect day, it doesn't have a perfect ending.
Well, pace car's going to come on towards pit road. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back to green flag racing this time by. Here you can see, picking up the pace, the 42 car, back to green flag racing we go. 57 laps of this event scored complete. A little bit further back, you can see your top 3 have really broken away this time by Aaron as they come down in towards 1 once again.
Coming down into 1, and they did have a lap car between 3rd and 4th, which allowed, or between 2nd and 3rd, which have allowed our front two to, well, amass the lead, and I don't know if Philippe Lambert's going to be close enough to take advantage of that draft.
Rachel Whiteford coming back out of pit road. Penalty for both her and Eric Davis then. So they've both been given penalties as Davis back out onto the racetrack, as is Rachel Whiteford in that number 7 car. Now, the important thing for them is they are both scored on the lead laps. If we get ourselves another caution, Aaron, they can get, well, don't even have to worry about the wave around.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about Pocono. If you are going to have a penalty, this is the place to do it. The way they're fighting up front, though, for about 6th, 7th, 8th, they may very get their wish of a yellow. And if they do get a yellow, as strong as those 2 cars are, I doubt they'll have any issues getting back into the top 5. But if we go green the rest of the way, it is going to be a very long 140 laps.
There you can see your mid-pack. Look at them jostling, fighting for position. There's a number 9 car of Leonardo Sesmatos in the Forza Brazil racing car. Out of turn number 4, down to his inside will go that driver of Stefan Remedy, but not for long. He goes back into line. They come down into 1 once again. 2-wide racing. Now McBride and the DeRuta into that first corner, riding on board with that driver of Now McBride as he moves himself down to the inside. Well, of no one, Aaron, because he's fallen down into 11th position. DeRuta, for the time being, is ahead.
Yeah, this racing mid-pack is such great stuff to watch. This is, I think these drivers have learned, long race, no reason to drive over the top of each other, and this has been good stuff. As I say that, almost contact in 3. Driver gets out of the way, and 3 wide off the corner.
As we can see there, continuing at this battle. 3 wide, 4 wide, as they come down in towards turn 1. Aaron, 4 wide doesn't work. 3 wide barely works. Who's going to make it through? The answer's going to be all of them.
Oh, wow. 4 wide, not something we get to say all that often. Thankfully, they got that funneled down. If they all would have had the same mentality and all either went for it or all lifted, I think our 2 drivers that got a penalty would have been very much thankful for that.
Oh, yes, they would have been. Dave Jinks battling it out right now as we ride on board with him in the Broken Arrow number 76 machine. He's got himself Now McBride battling alongside with him right now. The Last Lap Motorsport versus Broken Arrow. These 2 teams have a lot of history against each other. Down to complete lap number 63 here in the ISOWC Pocono 500 as they work themselves down towards turn number 1. Once again, your leader is Simpson from De Jong. You got yourself battling in the mid-pack. D'Amato's battling it out with Scott W. Smith. It's so good to see Scott W. Smith having himself a good race here today, Aaron.
Oh, absolutely, and I think he is having fun out there. When you're having this hard of a battle, this is just good fun. I think they might have made slight contact in front, Smith and Remedy may have had contact out of the tunnel turn there. The way Remedy's car shot to the right, there may have been slight contact.
They keep it together, however, as they come down in towards turn 1. Remedy's going to look to the outside of that number 30 Under Armour machine of Scott W. Smith. Will Remedy be able to hold the outside line? As you can see, no, he won't. And what's going to do as well, put him under pressure from behind. Although Remedy gave himself a much better run out that corner, as he's now going to try and do the cross under down in towards turn number 2. Perfect execution for that number 6 machine.
Oh, beautiful move there, and that's what you gotta do. If you're gonna get past, you just lift a little bit. You have a much better exit. Your radius is gonna be greater. You're gonna have about 2-3 extra miles an hour off the corner. And then you add the draft, and it is just an easy pass out of in between 1 and 2. But then that sets you up for the straightaway. Scott Smith now has the advantage of the draft. Gonna look to the inside, but I think he timed his move a little too early. When you move out of that draft, you lose that major advantage. And, well, maybe Smith sees what's going on behind him, and maybe he's figuring, well, just wait in between 1 and 2. They did build, you can see by them not going side by side down the straightaway, they've now pulled about 10, 12 car lengths to the cars behind them.
You talk about pulling car lengths. Actually, Remedy had Scott W. Smith right behind him through turn 2. They're going to think about going too wide into 3. No, they won't. They'll stay where they are for the time being. You talk about putting out a gap. Once again, your top 2 drivers putting out a gap, and, well, it seems to be every single season in the ISOWC IndyCar Series, we get ourselves a new team who surprise everyone. And this season, it has been this Mad Cape and One Design satellite racing team, because last year, Mad Cape were known as a road specialist, not so good on the ovals, but this time around, Aaron, they are strong everywhere.
Very strong, and almost right now you could say they are sort of, well, stinking up the show. It's they've got 1.7 seconds on Vic, 4 seconds back to 4th. So whatever they have found, it is working very strongly. I don't know, Will, if we've seen cars get this big of a lead so fast on a super speedway.
No, especially considering the draft conditions. We zoom in then down into mid-pack. You can see drivers are breaking the toe down towards the rear of this one. So we can see 3 drivers, the 76 car of Dave Jenks, 41 car of Now McBride, and the 14 machine of Andrew Kinsella as well. They're trying to break the draft from each other. They've got to be careful, Aaron, because they may well be in a position where they get themselves into a bit of bother with race control because of the fact that they are doing defensive maneuvers, reactionary defensive maneuvers.
Yeah, it's one thing, you can make a move, but if you react, and describing blocking in racing has got to be one of the hardest things to describe. Got to be one of the hardest things to describe because yes, you can make a move, but if it's a reactionary move, then it could cross a line. Now, if you make one move, what does that mean? Does that mean you can move back to the preferred line? No. So talking to people outside of racing can be very difficult, and even racers themselves be very difficult to describe.
There you can see Leonardo Matos and the Forza Brazil racing car, sponsored by Thrustmaster, down in towards turn 2, side by side still with that driver of Andy DeRuta and the No Nonsense Racing Machine as they come down in towards turn number 3 once again. Now Matos having to get right out the gas, and this is one thing that does change over the course of a run. These drivers, as they burn off the fuel, turn 3 becomes easier, and it's always worth remembering, Aaron, at this racetrack, you forget one corner. Generally, it's turn number 2, as we just cycle back to have a look at Remedy continuing to battle with Scott W. Smith. You generally throw away one corner. It's generally turn number 2, but then you've got to find a balance between turn 1 and turn 3, because each of these 3 corners are so different here at Pocono.
And not only that, but as the race progresses and you make your in-car adjustments, you may have a setting for turn 1 and a setting for turn 3. And the mental fatigue as the race wears on, if you have your settings wrong for the corner you're going into, that can be your race ran just like that. So not only do you have to find the balance, but you may be changing the car every time for every corner, with turn 2 being the sort of corner nobody pays attention to. But turn 1, turn 3, they lead onto the longer straights, and if you don't have your car set upright in the balance and you forget to make the adjustment, well, that concrete or safer wall could be looming.
There you can see Stefan Remedy continuing to go side by side with Scott W. Smith in the battle for the 7th position on the racetrack. Out front, it is Chad Simpson, Mikel de Jong. Now, these drivers are 10 seconds back right now as they circulate through Pocono turn number 3. Once again, onto the start-finish line. De Jong still continuing to battle with Chad Simpson. We've kind of become accustomed to this. And you talk about the changes that these drivers can make over the course of the racetrack, Aaron. They have got the anti-roll bars, both front and rear, and they've got themselves a weight jacket. Not to quote Scott Goodyear too much, but these drivers, they will be using different settings in each of these 3 corners. And I've done a 400-mile race at Pocono. It takes you away mentally, because not only you've got to change corner to corner, but remember, as those tyres wear off, you've got to have yourself a different set of settings for beginning of the run, middle of the run, end of the run.
Yes, and with the fuel, when the fuel depletes, the car gets completely different. And so, yeah, you almost have to have a notebook of, okay, laps 0 through 5 run this, 5 through 10 do this. It'd be very difficult. And another thing I'm looking at, trap speeds. Stefan Remedy, even in the draft, he could only hit 224. Our leaders earlier in the race, I saw Michel de Jong hit 231.
Wow.
So not only are our front cars fast, but they can also, well, they are getting through the corners exceptionally well, and they have the top end. So, wow, whatever they've hit on, they have found it in a straight line. And again, de Jong 229, 230 as he lifting going into the corner. So saving fuel there as he doesn't want to get too close to Chad Simpson.
There's your gaps as we check in on the battle between P number 4, P5. This is Vic Cordell and Martin Egelkirchen, former teammates actually. These two drivers, Vic Cordell recently leaving the RRX fraternity to find pastures new. But these two drivers, well, they're good friends, but now they're on the racetrack and different teams, they are going at it. There's a little bit of co-opetition that will go on. 73 laps into a 500-mile event though, Aaron. Does look as though that is what Cordell and Egelkirchen are doing right now, trying to get themselves to a more common enemy than themselves.
Yeah, it's you can have friends, you can have enemies on a racetrack before the race, but when the race starts and the race progresses, it's amazing how friends can sometimes become the opposite, and former teammates then sort of by de facto means become teammates, as these two drivers are sort of drafting together right now, and if something happens, well, they could be in it. If first and second get speeding issues, they are right back in it. Meanwhile, between the first and second and fourth and fifth, we have Philippe Lambert just completely out on an island by himself.
Yep, so your top 5, ladies and gentlemen, are Chad Simpson leading the way from Mikel de Jong. As you can see, your top 8 now on the bottom of your screen. Then it is Philippe Leber, Vic Cordell, and Martin Egelkirchen. The rest of your top 8, Scott Smith, Stefan Remedy, and Andy de Ruta. Your retirees so far, Master Brazil, Dodrick Kynes, Kevin Ellis, Stuart Pumphrey, Nick Crowlin, Leandro Santos. Gordon Newjox is on pit road, still classified in the race, Matt Strand and Andreas Warner. We'll step aside for just a couple of moments. We'll be back after this message.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun.
Truex in the outside, contact made. 56 slides it into 4. Who's going to be at the stripe? Dead even, give it to Ryan Truex. Truex is your winner over Tandy.
cars are lined up on the grid. The racing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We are underway. They all come down into turn 1 for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Monday nights are Skippy nights here on RaceSpotTV. Catch the world's best sim racers from Club UK and Ireland partake in the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Series that lives here only on RaceSpotTV. And don't forget as well, coming your way in just 7 weeks' time, it is the 6th running of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. You can catch that one on May the 30th from 8 PM GMT. That one lives here only on RaceSpotTV. So back to the action here at Pocono, and here's the battle going on for P3, P4. So Adel on board once again with Martin Nagel-Kirkin, still working with that driver of Vic Cordell, although we've got De Jong onto pit road this time by.
And we had Simpson come in 3 laps ago, so that's the advantage of running second. 3 laps. So another thing to put into the notebook as we get into the end game, that's 3 laps of fuel that, well, if we have pit stops on lap 190 to 194, that's 3 laps less that they're going to have to fill.
Yeah, as we can see De Jong back out onto the racetrack. 10.7 seconds his pit stop. And he is battling for the race lead. He's being particular. I mean, that is the perfect way of coming back onto the racetrack. Down on that inside line all the way through turn number 1. None of these drivers have actually been given a black flag violation yet for coming off pit road. Of course, we had the one with Rachel Whiteford, Eric Davis onto pit road on our last caution. Stephen Remini, Stott W. Smith on side by side right now. So they work themselves down in towards 1 once again. One driver who I have to say is doing a very good job at just kind of being there in the mix but keeping out of the way is Benjamin Gregory. Now, he did this in the ISOWC Indianapolis 500, but there are no black flag rules in ISOWC competition. Yes, he's 5 laps down. You have yourself 5 cautions. But Benjamin Gregory in the Avid Chronic Racing car is being respectful, if not wanting to try and get himself some form of positions, as he's running right behind Scott W. Smith right now.
Well, from turns of fate, it can be very disappointing being 5 laps down, but when your car's handling okay, right now he is, if anything, I think the 2 drivers in front of him are actually slowing him up, so he could force the issue. He could go 3 wide.
De Ruyter's had an incident. I think this was on towards pit road. De Ruyter is going to try and drive that car back, but we'll get ourselves a replay of this one for you and show you what happened to Andy De Ruyter. Now, did he hit it on the entry or did he hit it on the exit of turn 3? Because was he coming in for a pit stop? Because we know that pit stop window was coming, and he had a mission last time. Dirty air, pushing himself up. Why? You know what? I've done this so many times.
It is so easy to do. You again, along with turn 1 and turn 3, and turn 1 at Indy's like it, turn 2 at Auto Club, by the time you realize that you're in trouble, it's too late. No amount of brakes or lifting off the gas gonna help whatsoever. You are on a one-way ticket to having your race be ran, and oh, he was having such a good race here today, and just like that, over.
And you know what? I cycle ourselves back to the early incarnations of the ISOWC. Monica Clara Brand and Randy Crosno both had incidents out of turn number 3. Now, they didn't actually hit the wall. They just got loose on the exit of that 3rd corner. You get a little bit less on this DW12. It's actually got a little bit more downforce in the right places. It's useful in some ways to compare this car to the IR05, because the IR05 had itself overall more downforce, but this car, it's got itself more downforce in the right places. It allows you to turn through the corners, Aaron, but it's not in such a way like the old IR05 car. It was just really a draft fest car.
Yeah, the other car, yeah, I'll agree. It did get looser out of the corners, but man, we could have 20, 30 car trains in that car at the same time. So, as you said, different. Some drivers did prefer the old style racing, this car I think lends itself to, this is just more pure, more thrilling to watch, and requires just a little bit more driver. The old car, well, not to take away from anybody that won in it, but you could have drivers with the draft just stay up there that if they were left on speed alone might not necessarily be in a position to be in the top 5.
Lee Lambert making another pit stop there in the Vortex Sim Racing number 16 car, 10.3 seconds out and away. And of course the old car is slightly faster than the new car as well in most circumstances, Aaron, which is useful for me because the Fixed Series is running at Charlotte today, or this week even. And well, I have the only distinction of my entire racing career. I own the qualifying lap record at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
That's an honor. My only record is the Jeddah at the Las Vegas Inner Road Course, so I think yours has a slightly higher prestige to it.
Of course, that was done over 52 qualifying attempts whilst writing a dissertation. Also probably my most favourite sim race in my iRacing career as well, involving a lot of strategic manoeuvres and actually playing games with my own teammate back then as well. What happens when you get a caution at mid-race, Aaron? Whatever you use is the other drivers a pick. They use all the fuel, you save your energy, and then you don't have to pit at the end, and, well, you go to victory lane.
Well, it seems that'd be interesting, as Stefan Remedy is going to make a pit stop there, and that battle with Smith was getting very borderline on reactionary moves. Race Control did alert the drivers not to do any of those, but would be interesting to see if every driver probably has one of those races that just sticks out to them upon any other race. And anybody on iRacing, anybody that has, you know, had a top 5 that they weren't expecting, or a win that they got just not out of speed but from circumstances, I'm sure everybody has a great story to tell.
Oh yeah, and in fact, you know, personally, I've got a couple of great memories from this one racetrack. It involves actually running with the drive that you can see up on your screen right now, the number 76 car of Dave Jenks. Final lap of the 2013 Pocono 500. Great 2-lap dash to the line, battling out with him and one of his teammates. And it's one of those things that people forget just how much there is in these long 500 events, because you get yourself towards the end of the race, and right now, of course, there's a little bit of showmanship right now. We're talking about this whilst you're off air. You know, it's a very exciting race in some ways, but we see all this drafting and passing going on. We know it's going to happen because of the track conditions. The last 5 laps is when it really matters, and these drivers are going to get themselves a little bit more pressure as down onto pit road comes Vic Cordell.
Into the pits, and looks to be a good entry there at the cones. Let's see where he was at cone-wise. Actually a very conservative entry, but at this point in time we've seen several drivers get dinged with penalties. There is no reason to try to gain half a second right now at the risk of losing 15 or more seconds.
Although he did actually make himself a bit of a moment coming onto pit road. He undershot his pit box by the looks of it. That would have cost him just a couple of moments. As the Habit Burger driver himself, of Vic Cordell, comes back out into the racetrack. Pit stop time for him, 10 seconds on the dot. As we have a look then, does he come back onto the racetrack in a safe manner? It's actually going to be... yeah, he'll be okay. As he works himself through turn 1, taking that inside line. And that's the thing, the inside line does actually work, as Whiteford's now onto pit road in that number 7 machine. Of course, getting herself a penalty earlier on. Still hoping for that caution. She will be classified as 1 lap down for the time being, but once it cycles through, she will be okay. So now McBride's just come back out into the racetrack as well. 11.9 second stop there for Whiteford. 10.3 second stop for now McBride, as McBride pushing a little bit higher actually through turn number 1 and 2, but no, he's okay. As Whiteford back out onto the racetrack as well. Cars warming around her. Whiteford, I think, will be scored on the lead lap as far as it goes once it all cycles through, but he's got to play the long game now.
Got to play a long game, and as I mentioned, if this race went green after that penalty, it is going to be a very long time. Anytime you lose the draft at a, well, NASCAR plate track, it's just the most boring event in the world. Some would say being up front in one of those events would be the same, but when you're by yourself and you've got Oh boy. But when you have a penalty and you're the only thing you're thinking, you just want to hear the race control say yellow. You're just waiting for that. It's frustrating. It's boring. It's aggravating. You're thinking, how did I get into this mess? You're just hating everything. And when you don't get that yellow, oh, it's the most aggravating thing in the world.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the NASCAR Peak Entry Series lives on iRacing Live. Join our friends over at PSR TV, MRN, the Motorsports Network, and Fan Choice TV for the world's best NASCAR coverage, including some draft tracks, which, of course, they do a good job. And that's the thing, actually, as well, Aaron. You see the difference at drivers, and you get this here in the ISOWC. These drivers, they know what they're running every single race. They can do some of these crazy maneuvers. We've seen it in ISOWC competition over the years. We've seen it in 16 Street Racing competition over the years. We see it in the Indy 500. Very different style of racing. These drivers are prepared to take what I like to call concerted risks here, because they know exactly what it means to them, but they also know how to attack and defend. They know exactly what that defending driver has to do, and they give them the necessary room for the corners.
And, well, the drivers still in this race, I would say, know that. We saw some moves at the start of the race that might not exactly have been that, but once you get past the quarter distance, you do see a lot more of that give and take. And even when we do see a train of 10, 15 or more cars, you do see that. You do see that give and take, because the drivers realize you really can't play around with contact in these cars. Slightest of contact, somebody's going into the wall, going to collect 1, 2, 3, maybe even more cars. And at the same time, though, these drivers with this draft can take that little bit of risk, and it's at that moment of just how far do you go, and for the driver that's in front, how much do you defend? One thing I think early on drivers don't realize, it's okay to let the driver go. With this draft, you aren't going to lose that much ground. It is okay. You can let him go. You'll get him back next corner.
Well, you can see along board with Mura in that number 25 car, heading himself through turn number 2, battling out with Dave Jinks right now. This is the closest battle we've got on our racetrack, although we have got Whiteford and Davis. They are still scrapping it out as well. There's McBride. He's got himself a 4.4 second advantage over Whiteford. We cycle it back to Whiteford right now as well. These two drivers, they made themselves their penalty simultaneously. Whiteford's got the upper hand right now. These two are gonna probably not like each other a little bit, right? But they're gonna have to work together. That's the thing about these long races.
Yeah, mentioned that before this, that you do get to a point where your enemies become your friends and your friends can become your enemies. And for Eric Davis, the driver that got him a penalty, is right in front of him, and it's been that way for about 46 laps now. So not the race I think Davis would have wanted. They are about 3 seconds, 4 seconds behind the leaders right now. So if they were to get that yellow right now, they'd have to hope that the front two come in, because right now they are 1 lap down.
Yeah, as they can see, the GoDaddy car of Rachel Whiteford still scored in the 12th position on the racetrack. Eric Davis right behind her as they work themselves out of Pocono turn number 3 once again. As well, to run through your top 8 in this event so far, it is De Jong as they head themselves towards the halfway point of this race, leading by 2.5 seconds now over Chad Simpson. So De Jong was actually the best of these drivers for that last sequence of pit stops, Aaron.
Yeah, and you can see that difference. Simpson had a little bit of a conservative entry, and that difference is what we see on the racetrack, which 2.5 seconds is quite a bit. Simpson, though, this past lap did run 0.2 of a second faster. May had a little bit of drafting help from Oakley Higcom, who is running 15th multiple laps down currently. So this last time a 40.7 to a 40.8, so about another 300ths gained, but still that lead, if you round up, is still 2.5.
Yep, as we can see, these drivers still going along. Dave Jinks battling out still side by side with that number 25 Brazil car driver of Matos. This is the battle for, this is Mura. Battle for positions right along board then with Dave Jinks. We'll cycle that camera around for you. The broken arrow number 76 car as they're side by side down the front straightaway. I almost thought that number 25 car was going to come onto pit road. He didn't, but Dave Jinks has the outside line down in towards turn number 1, and he will fall back into line. Will he do a patented cut under? I tell you what, he has some good pace on the outside line, this Jinks.
Indeed he does. One thing one thing I think we missed, I think Scott Smith must have had a massive speeding penalty. He was running up with Stefan Remedy for 6th, and now he is 1 lap down. So I think that had to have been a big speeding penalty there.
As they can see, these drivers still side by side. Oh, Jinx so close to the wall there, but will get himself that position out of the corner. This is about for P number 8 on the racetrack.
Very close there, and that's one thing I personally like to see. Typically you go, okay, people that are going to fight for the win are going to fight tooth and nail, and everybody behind, you know, is just going to be out cruising on a Sunday afternoon drive. No, these drivers are going to fight for every position they can get, and Dave Jinks hung it all out there, almost sideways off a 3, putting the right rear right up against the wall. And he's going to come fire under again going into 3.
Yep, there you can see side by side. These drivers have head themselves through turn 3. 1, 2, 3 drivers pretty much scored nose to tail right now. Scott W. Smith has scored a lap down to these drivers. We talked about that one a moment ago. And Scott W. Smith, there you can see he's going to work himself past that driver of Dave Jinks. And he's threaded the needle there. That's impressive stuff by Scott W. Smith, who really has improved as a driver over the last 2 years in the Under Armour car. Scott W. Smith, you know, he's famous for running as a privateer, but I don't think it's long before he gets the attention of one of these, you know, quote-unquote mega teams here on iRacing, Aaron, because he really has shown himself to be a consistently just brave driver who doesn't really cause too many incidents.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happened to, he pitted and then he made another pit stop the very next lap.
That would have been speeding on the exit of pit road then.
Yeah, interesting. It didn't look like his speed was all that great, but there's one point the speed did peak to 61, so you speed in the wrong spot, and the price you pay is rather great.
Yeah, as he still runs himself down in that 14th position on the racetrack. 103 laps scored complete. We'll be back for the mid-race break after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV. Watch it! Cars are lined up on the grid. The iRacing.com World Championship. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV. We are yellow after an incident with Philippe Lambert. Let's get ourselves another look at that one then as well. We were talking about this one off air just a moment ago, Aaron, about how it was potentially just a matter of time. But we do go yellow here as well. I haven't actually seen this incident here, but he was side by side with Whitefoot through turn number 1. Noah McBride right behind him. Talk us through it.
Yeah, turn 1 strikes again. And Lambert was getting a little agitated. He had Whiteford, McBride, and Davis all a lap down, running for position around him. And Whiteford goes to the inside. Lambert is on the high side. And again, it's one of those things that's hard to tell if Whiteford came up. In this case, I don't know. Lambert came from the 3rd lane down into the 2nd. So, well, that's a tough one to call there.
Well, there's the lanes there, and in this case, I will say that, well, Whiteford was down on the 2nd lane, and this is one of the issues with Pocono, is that it's a bit like Homestead. You generally don't run that 1st lane. We'll get ourselves one more look at this one. I do think that Whiteford, this time by, had absolutely nothing to do with this one. Let's get ourselves another look. We'll slow it down. We'll show you and one design, super slow mo replay in just 1 moment, because, well, if we slow it all the way down, this is probably the easiest way to tell. Down into the corner they come now. So we'll get a look from our aerial coverage. And, well, at this point, you see, Whiteford was committed to the 2nd lane. She was running in the 2nd lane. Moves her car down into the inside lane, but halfway between scene 1 and scene 2. You sometimes run that car there because you want to help that car turn in. Now, Lambert comes down not only from the 3rd lane into the 2nd lane, you can see Whiteford down in that 2nd lane alongside her. That one, in my opinion, is all Lambert.
And I think one of the things that stems from that is when you are running with lap traffic, no matter how seasoned of a veteran you are, it can just be aggravating. You're thinking, okay, I'm on the lead lap, you're not, get out of my way. But they're running their race as well. And for Lambert there, he had 3.5 seconds of the cars behind him, had 4 seconds of the cars in front of him. He wasn't going to go anywhere. So that's one of those times where just a little bit of extra patience, he's still going to run 3rd. He could have let those 3 cars, and those 3 cars looked to be faster. It would have been nothing to let them by, let them have their battle, and save some fuel. But unfortunately, when you're on the lead lap, it's so easy to forget that and think, well, I'm on the lead lap, you're not, get out of my way.
Yeah, as by the way, we have had pit stops that have just taken place. De Jong, Simpson have made pit stops. So, well, this field, as I see it right now, they're pretty much all into the same strategy now, Aaron, because we were entering another pit stop window.
And, well, it's going to be interesting because now, do the drivers, we have 6 cars in front of our race leader. Do you not pit and risk not getting a yellow? This track's long enough. I think you got to take the gamble.
Take the gamble. If you're a lap down, you take the gamble. If you're multiple laps down, you don't take the gamble, because the last thing you want to do is go more laps down. I think if you are in a position of someone like Oakley Hungham or Benjamin Gregory, you might as well just pit, because of the fact that you are scored so many laps down right now that all you need to do is finish the race, and you just need to turn laps. So there's no way. This isn't a Jacques Villeneuve back at Indy 1995. This is 108 laps into an event which has had itself 2 long green flag runs now.
And, well, if this were Iowa or a track where if you do make a pit stop, you're going to go 2 or 3 laps down, different story. But here, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to stay 1 lap down. And yes, all those drivers did stay out. So, whereas where we had 8 cars on the lead lap, or make it 7, we're now back up to 13. And if we catch another yellow, well, I do think the cars of Davis and Whiteford, if they can stay in the draft, I do think they can contend with our front 2. Whiteford's card can hit, I saw 232 in the draft. That's the fastest speed I've seen. So if they can, if strategy works out right, they may have something for the front 2. Maybe. It's going to be asking a lot, though. They are going to need a yellow, and we're running out of cars to have a yellow.
You know what you need? Quick yellow.
That's exactly what we're going to need. And, well, Stefan Remedy, look at him. 4th place, so a solid run for him after starting 25th.
Yep. He is up 21 positions in this race so far. Incredible job by Stefan Remedy in that number 6 Haveline Energizer machine. Looking back, of course, to the one and only Nigel Mansell, who ran that car back in 1993. Other drivers as well, of course, Aaron. Was it Michael who ran that car?
Oh, green. And now that's, I'm going to have to say I got nothing on that. Oh, that,
The Haveline car. Come on.
Oh, yeah, my paint's
Yeah.
different. Michael ran it. Mario definitely ran it when they were at Newman Haas. And, of course, Nigel Mansell, of course, as well. As we go back to green.
We do it, and look at this
Simpson.
one immediately on the restart. It's going to be Simpson. Does he get by before the line? No, he doesn't. So they're going to be side by side in towards turn number 1. We're running on board with Mikel de Jong down in towards that first corner, and de Jong loses that position. What a restart there by that driver, Chad Simpson.
Great restart, but did he make the move too soon? Will de Jong be able to get it back before turn 2? Answer's gonna be no, but de Jong still has a run. May be able to look to the inside in before 3, although really at this point in time, is it worth the risk? Answer's gonna be no right there.
Guys, we'll get ourselves another look at that restart because that was incredibly fun to watch. This is Chad Simpson. We're right along board with him then as they work themselves through turn number 3 in the race. We are still green, by the way. Everyone's made it through. We've got side-by-side racing, like 3 wide actually we had with Moya and Davis. So we'll show you that entire first lap again. As you can see, Simpson, this is going to be down towards turn number 1. And, well, Simpson just gets a perfect restart. The start-finish line is here, and Simpson was behind, so it looks as though that was easily, perfectly timed there by Chad Simpson in that Satellite Mad Cape and One design car, bringing himself up a position on the racetrack. So, good running by him there, and that was exactly what you need to have on this race. And that was really timing for this restart as well, if we get one in the last 10 laps of this race, Aaron.
Yep, that's one thing to take a note, and we've got a driver that might have tapped the wall. Yes, Matos just barely nips the wall in a very unusual spot in turn 3. He does keep it going, but a lot of drivers are really hoping for a yellow there, but we stay green.
Yeah, so we'll go and show you what happened to Matos in just 1 second as we get ourselves a look at this one then. This is down in towards Pocono turn number 3, and this is actually on the exit of turn number 2. You can rattle on board now with Scott W. Smith, and Matos is actually just there. We can see him. We rattle on board of him, and he brushed up into the wall very early, Aaron.
Yeah, very unusual. We've seen a lot of just unusual car movements today, and chalk that one up to another one on that very long list.
So, Matos, this is on the exit of turn 2, heading himself down in towards turn number 3, and here we are. We'll slow that one down, and he don't even need to. He just got himself into the grate, and it's that whole thing of Pocono. It's like the less you turn the wheel, generally the better you do. Simpson de Jong, by the way, is still battling for the race lead, but the less you turn the wheel, generally the better you do. If you miss your turning low, it's one of the worst tracks to miss it, period.
That is absolutely correct, and we just had Scott Smith get 2 cars on the exit of turn 2. A great bit of passing there. Scott Smith on a mission after that speeding penalty. Of course, all these drivers in this back half of the pack just hoping, praying that the yellow flag comes out one more time.
Yeah, now they will probably be on a similar pit stop strategy here if it goes yellow. So if it goes green even. But it's playing the long game. They'll be okay at this stage of the race, Aaron, but they're going to have to make sure they come into pit road together, coordinate it so they can come out together. Because right now they have got the benefit of that draft, which, yes, it does slow the cars down in some ways, but you can use it to work faster. He's running on board with Dave Jenks in that broken arrow. Number 76 machines. He heads himself past the start-finish line. And let's get ourselves a look then at what he does over the course of a lap. His first sector, 20.5, second sector, 20.6. But you've got to be careful here. If you are a lap down, that you don't need to panic. You just got to continue to play the game. It's like endurance racing, as I always say. You might lose 2-3 seconds in a lap. You can't get yourself too frustrated.
Yes, once you get frustrated, you are going to make those unforced errors. And what would be 3 seconds, 4 seconds a lap, well, losing 3 seconds a lap is better than being out of the race. So definitely better to take a little bit of a loss and continue on. And wow, speaking of frustrating, oh, Whiteford and Davis, I think, may have just banged wheels on the front straightaway right at the finish line.
Replay of that one coming up on your screen immediately as we ride on board with Eric Davis then. This will be out of turn number 3 down towards the start finish line. Let's get our camera turned around and let's show you what happened. We'll slow it all the way down for you here. And let's see what happens between Eric Davis and Rachel Whiteford. They got very, very close on the front straight away. Did they make contact? Well, it was mighty close. And here we can see, we'll zoom it in. And, almost, Aaron. They went 3 wide. You know the driver I was more concerned about? We'll have another look at this one. It's Scott W. Smith. He crossed the wall in a straight line there.
And right now they're going to go 3 wide, and they almost touched. And oh, the way they've been driving, I don't like their odds of anything 3 wide right now. Smith to the inside, he's going to get the 2-for-1 special, going to get around Davis and Whiteford, but Whiteford on the outside going to have some speed. And Davis, is he frustrated? Is he going to try to go 3 wide? Oh, let's hope not. He's going to look to the outside going to turn 2, and oh my goodness, these drivers are fighting hard. Don't they know they need to pit in just about 5 laps or so?
Well, this is what happens when you got drivers a lap down, scored the drivers in the lead lap. They want to get themselves that buffer room. These drivers a lap down is Whiteford, Smith, side by side out the final corner. If you're Davis right now.
Contact behind him.
Oh.
Contact behind him. Kinsella hit the wall. He's still driving, but now 3 wide in front of Kinsella. Davis to the inside, Smith in the middle, Whiteford on the outside. How is this going to play out?
They survive another corner. As you can see, Davis on the inside, Smith on the inside, and then Whiteford on the outside as they work.
3 wide again.
As they come down in towards turn number 2 once again. Whiteford's now on the outside line with Smith pushing her around the racetrack. Smith thinks about going 3 wide in the centre of the corner. Now, these are all drivers who are on the lead lap, but they need to pit once again in this event. They can see they are still circulating, and this is incredible stuff here. They should be battling these other drivers. They're going to have to work together in the next 40-50 laps of this event. They're not working together at all. As ahead of them, we still got it going on between Cordell, Martin Caken, and also you got yourself Benjamin Gregory at the rear of this field. He doesn't want to give up yet.
Working together, take the biggest sports rivalries in the world right now. I think they would have a better chance of working together than these 3 drivers. Oh my goodness, this is I think the hardest fought racing I think I've seen. I know I say that a lot, but I can't recall a battle this fierce, and they're trying to go 3 wide every corner, and at the same time they are slowly catching the cars in front of them. Slowly.
Oh, it's literally Fast and Furious. Please don't sue us if you're a big movie company. As they head themselves down towards the start-finish line once again. 120 laps will be scored complete, this time by in the ISOWC Pocono 500. It's been all action, all race long. I feel like Vince McMahon when I said that a moment ago there, Aaron.
Oh, and well, all race long, the only thing all race long, I know this last 40 laps has been something to remember for sure, and I know for Davis, Whiteford, and Smith, they aren't going to forget this battle anytime soon, and if they catch the cars in front of them and they still haven't made their pit stop, oh my goodness, if I were spotters for the cars in front of them, I'd say get out of the way of the hurricane that is coming.
Yeah, and here's the thing as well, each of these drivers had to make at least 2 more pit stops, in some of these cases 3 more stops here. So this field will still spread out and come back together. This is going to be a case of how well can you work, and it's going to be interesting actually, Aaron, because there are some of these drivers, and I'm going to put Scott Smith and also Rachel Whiteford into this category. Well, they both complained before this race into turn 2. Smith then Whiteford making contact once again, almost there, but they came into this race saying we're under pace. But because of the conditions here, they can work it in the draft. And it's so cold here. This dirty air, it's not really dirty. It's amazing. It's the absolute perfect conditions for racing. As they're going to go 1, they're going to go 2. Are they going to go 3? No, they're not. They're going to stay 2 wide. And let's enjoy this one from on board Scott W. Smith as he breezes past Rachel Whiteford once again.
And I did mention Kinsella brushed the wall. He has rejoined this battle. He has just the catbird seat to the 3-car battle that is just raging in front of him as they go side by side. Oh, Smith thought about to the inside of Davis. That wasn't going to work. Whiteford now going to do the crossover and going to go very low into turn 3 over the curb. Smith, that is heads up driving as Whiteford washes up, and that's the way you got to take turn 3. That's the way. If you have a car on your inside, you have to give more room because that car is going to come up.
Yeah, it's right on board then with Whiteford in that GoDaddy number 7 machine. They can see the gap in front. They can see the gap behind. It is very, very close, and you can see Quintana is in that 10th position. This is incredible battling right now in the ISOWC Pocono 500 here on RaceSpotTV. This is incredible, incredible stuff. And, well, we're talking about the catbird seat. Let's talk about what it's like to be in that catbird seat right now. Let's enjoy this one with Andrew Quintana, the Canadian driver, in that number 14 machine out of turn number 3. Aaron, let's enjoy a lap on board of him.
Yeah, and it's going to be enjoyable for us to watch. Now, when you have 3 drivers battling that hard in front of you, you have to be very heads up. You have it's almost like driving on an interstate with drivers that have no idea what they're doing. Of course, these drivers do know, but you just have to be prepared for absolutely anything, because at any moment in time, the slightest of contact, and what's been beautiful, is going to turn into cars spinning every which way. So it's really nerve-wracking. He has the best seat, but very nerve-wracking, as every time he goes through, as coming into turn 3 here, seeing the cars side by side, weaving, dicing, and wow, it's just difficult to be in this position. Seeing them dart to the inside, you're wondering, are they going to make it? Are they not? And so far they've made it, but it doesn't take much, as we've seen.
Yeah, Scott Smith moves himself ahead now of the driver of Eric Davis. Of course, Davis and Whiteford had themselves a bit of a ding-dong early on in this race through turn number 1. Oh, traffic in play here as well. And Davis was trying to go down to the inside, as we got McBride, by the way, on pit road. His pit stop time, 10.6 seconds. He's out and away. Moyer is making a pit stop. His pit stop time is going to be 11.4 seconds back out of the way. But there was a driver right there. I believe that was Leonardo Matos, who almost completely destroyed the party there, and that was mighty, mighty close.
Mighty close, and the party has been broken up as Whiteford's the first to blink into the pits. She goes, so the 3-car battle now down to 2, but we know both of those drivers do have to pit. But if everybody does have to make the same amount of pit stops, this trio, they're going to be okay. They may even be able to gain some spots on the racetrack if everybody has to make the same amount of pit stops. Whiteford, though, very hot on entry, very close to losing it. Did a good job to not lose the rear end of that car, and out and away she goes. And I think she may only just, let's see, where are the, oh no, the leaders have already passed her, so sorry about that. But out and away she comes out, 3rd car in line. Vic Caudell is going to be the next one to her.
Yeah, they can see Rachel Whiteford, 10.6 seconds stop for her. Now, this is useful for her, because if a caution was to come out right now, then she would be able to get herself back onto the lead lap due to the virtue that Simpson and DeYoung would pretty much be guaranteed to pit. 127 laps out of 200 scored complete here in the ISOWC Pocono 500. We'll be back in a moment.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com, has officially begun.
What is it about speed? Do these rivals chase speed because they can? Or because they can't help it? IndyCar. The heart of racing. Go to IndyCar.com for live timing and scoring, upcoming race details, and to join the conversation.
ladies and gentlemen, and we'd like to take a quick moment here on RaceSpotTV to give a good shout out to our friend Paul Jenkins, who unfortunately lost his father just 1 week ago. Actually was ISOWC competition was taking place. And Aaron, you and I, we are part of a trio that makes up what we like to call the best IndyCar commentary team in the world, along with our good friend Paul Jenkins. So at this moment in time, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our good friend Paul and his father, who he unfortunately lost 1 week ago today.
Yes, absolutely, Paul. One of a great announcer. Every time the three of us are together, I don't know how many different adjectives you've used to describe this, but immense loss, and all of our thoughts are with Paul at this time.
Still got ourselves a battle going on for P3, P4, P5. We are in the midst of another pit stop here in the ISOWC Pocono 500, which Chad Simpson continues to lead. The gap between himself and his teammate Mikel de Jong is 1 second right now, as it's the Mad Cape and One Design cars continue to lead the way. Vic Cordell running himself in P number 3. He is, though, 9 seconds behind Mikel de Jong right now, as they can see Vic Cordell, as he's got himself a little bit of pressure. I say a little bit, I mean a lot of pressure from Stefan Remedy behind him. There's also Martin Nigel-Kirkin in that mix as well as a lap down car or two involved in what is an insightful battle. That is Eric Davis and Rachel Whiteford scored down. They are, of course, 1 lap down, but interesting enough, Aaron, they are still right there, getting that draft, which is what they need as this field works itself through a green flag pit stop.
I think this is huge for Whiteford and Davis, as they have full tanks, so they should be running slower, but with this huge draft, they are actually every lap gaining time on all these cars that still have to make a pit stop. So I think this is going to pay dividends for Whiteford and Davis. Now you might be wondering, what happened to Scott Smith? He did all that work, and speeding on pit road yet again has hindered his day. So now Scott Smith, last car 1 lap down, running 13th. So he too should have been up here in this mix, but speeding on pit road.
Yeah, and I think back to the 2013 Indianapolis 500, which you and I called together, of course, Aaron, with Paul, and John Porzik making exactly the same mistake, either being too aggressive or not aggressive enough on pit road. There is that fine line, and you've got to find it, especially in a race as big as this, because of course there are double points in effect for all the Triple Crown races in the ISOWC IndyCar Series.
And it's so easy. Pitting can sort of be like putting in golf. Once you get the yips a little bit, once it gets into your head, well, then you're going to swing one way or the other. You're going to either be too aggressive or not. And what a move by Nagel-Kirkin to the inside of Remedy. Hold it down there. Remedy is very good at giving lanes. Remedy, really, I've raced him quite a bit, about 4 or 5 months ago. And in terms of going side by side, there's only one other driver I can compare him to in terms of racing you hard but giving you just enough, and that would be Matt Cook. So Remedy, very good at side by side racing. Nagel-Kirkin, though, late move, and I was going to make another point, and I have, pit stops. Yes, once it gets in your head, it can be very difficult. There we go.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point tonight as well between the iRacing.com official Open and Fixed Series. And this is where the Fixed Series is where Remedy kind of has graduated from over the last couple of years. And he has been used to running in Fixed Series competition. No adjustment, just having to run the car that is given to you. And therefore, you learn to adapt. And Remedy, I think, is not very far away from really hitting the big time. Not only in ISOWC competition, but making a huge name for himself in iRacing.com IndyCar competition.
I agree. He's one of those drivers there's few drivers that you come across that you can run side by side and just know they aren't going to wreck you. You can run side by side. I don't know how many laps I ran side by side with Remedy at Vegas, in the hundreds over the course of the week, and you become desensitized to the fact that you're running 220 miles an hour, inches apart, and you have no qualms about it. You have no hesitation about that they're going to keep their car on the inside. And I mentioned Matt Cook. Matt Cook came through the Fixed Series and just exploded onto the scene. And when I raced Remedy, I had the same sort of thought back to that.
Here's an interesting point. Eric Davis has now got a 2.3 second advantage over Rachel Whiteford. Davis is still in this draft. Whiteford has dropped off in the rear of it, and a mistake by Whiteford means that she is, for the time being, out of the picture. She is going to need a little bit of help. She is going to need the C word, a caution, as we see side by side between Moya and McBride. Battle for P number 9, P number 10.
Yep, as we finally, the battle, I think that's the longest we've continually talked about the same drivers, but the show Smith, Davis, and Whiteford were putting on, I think, unparalleled. And yes, Chad Simpson is still leading, but as the old adage goes, if you want to get your sponsor coverage, win the race or do something impressive to attract the cameras. And the battle mid-pack has definitely caught all the attention. Mora very close to the wall in the exit of turn 2.
As you can see, McBride just a couple of hundredths of a second behind. He's going to look to the outside as they come through turn number 3. And now will be McBride to the outside as they work themselves down this run straight away once again. Nice little overhead shot there as the drivers work themselves down in towards turn number 1. Moya will have the advantage. And that's the thing as well. With speed advantage that Moya had down towards turn number 1 was pretty insane, Aaron.
Yeah, as McBride goes from high to low, but yeah, I think McBride is really being towed around this racetrack. When McBride goes out, he goes to the inside, and Mora's just going to let him have it. But I really think Mora was really towing McBride around the straightaways here.
Yeah, we'll get a look on board with Moya once again as they head themselves out of corner number 3. You can see the 1, 2, 3 cars separated by just a couple of tenths per second. Moya has actually lost quite a bit that time by.
Gotta wonder if running an ultra low downforce of dirty air there, he went all the way down to 190 miles an hour, so his car obviously not a fan of having a car in front of him.
Mick Cordell's on pit road, making himself another pit stop, so another round of green flag pit stops is underway. Chad Simpson's on pit road as well, by the looks of it. So we'll have a look first. Mick Cordell, long pit stop, a speeding penalty for Vic Cordell on that number 33 car.
Oh, heavens. And this is where, really, a good pit stop is only going to net you 1 or 2 positions. A bad pit stop's only going to lose you 1 or 2 positions. You speed, you're now looking at 5, 6, maybe even more positions. So right now, if you're not going for the win, I personally feel you have to be conservative. You cannot risk. I mean, it's a risk-reward ratio. It's much more risky to try to gain 1 spot than if you're just conservative. Well, losing 5, 6 positions, not a good thing.
Yeah, let's get ourselves a replay then for the pit stop entry for Vic Cordell. Comes onto pit road just a little bit hot. And you can see it was just an absolute eon that he was scored on pit road for. Disappointing because that number 33 car, traditionally very cool underneath the helmet, Aaron.
Yeah, and been fighting. He's probably realized that with Davis and Whiteford getting that tow that they got, he probably figured he had to have a pretty good entry to maybe save those 3 or 4 spots, and in the end it's going to cost him a lot more.
Yeah, it will. As you can see there, replay of Cordell coming out onto the racetrack once again. Our aerial coverage today is brought to you by And1 Design, official graphics partner of the ISOWC IndyCar Series. As you can see, Vic Cordell coming back out onto the racetrack, and they can see as well. We had ourselves another couple of pit stops going on as well, as this time by Nigel Michael Kirkham, after leading himself 4 laps in this race, is on towards pit road, Aaron.
And a very good, I'd call that a very strong and conservative entry as Scott Smith back into the pits. That was a early stop for him, so I don't know what, and Neil Kirkin overshoots his pit stall, and that's going to cost him about 4 seconds there as he overshot it, then he undershot it as he was in reverse, so not the entry, and I guess it's just a little salt into the wound that he actually led that lap.
And you know what, for Nigel Kirkin, he's got to be careful because those frustrations going to his head right now. He's got to remember pit exit rules. He's a bit late getting onto the gas as well, releasing that pit limiter. He's back out onto the racetrack. 10.9 seconds is his official pit stop, but more think about it as a 15-second stop there for Martin Nagel Kirkin. We are backing it down into the last quarter of this event, the ISOWC Pocono 500. Your top 2 drivers separated once again by absolutely nothing, Aaron.
And that's the way when this race comes down to it, it's going to be these 2 drivers, and yeah, we haven't talked about them too much, but when it gets down to the final 10 laps and the race is on the line, you know, the battle that we saw between Whiteford, Davis, and Smith, we're going to see that for the race win. And right now just sizing each other up, and really, I wouldn't want to be the one leading this race. Whoever's in second is going to be able to save more fuel and might be able to go a little bit longer and take just maybe a few tenths of a second less fuel.
Yeah, we've got ourselves side-by-side racing a little bit further down the pack. Let's go and check in on this one. This is now McBride versus Kalibo, Brotano, and Moya a little bit more once again as Moya down to the inside of McBride. Can he hold that inside line? The answer is going to be no, he can't. So we have a look on board of him then. There is McBride on his outside, and McBride will hold that position. Now, that last lap motorsports car has got a good package overall. Moya does seem to struggle in dirty air, but he's going to look down. No, he's going to have to back out of it last second there.
That was I don't think he knew what he wanted to do until it was almost too late to make a decision. But we can see he's running a very different line. He wants no part of that dirty air, and last time we saw him when he went down to 190 miles an hour, I have to wonder if he did not adjust. He didn't make those onboard adjustments for the dirty air, as Mato's now going to go to the inside, so going to lose a spot in that thing. And that's one thing we haven't talked about. This track, very easy. If you're going to try to make a pass, you have to be sure to complete it, because the momentum that you lose on a botched pass will probably cost you a position.
Yeah, and Texas Motor Speedway, it's got its own type of racing. The same way as most of the 1.5 cookie cutters. But if you go out of line, you'll be freight trained. But this track, you've got to take every corner as if it's the last corner you're ever going to run. As you can see, very close racing still going on throughout your field here, as we turn our attention back to Dave Jinks, battling it out right now with Rachel Whiteford, battle for position. He's working himself alongside, that is Benjamin Gregory. A little bit like Koan the Simsport Colours from a distance, but, well, Benjamin Gregory is still scored 6 laps down in this race. You've got to wonder when race control says to him, look, you know what, you're not going to get yourself any more laps. Just allow these drivers to just do their race.
Yeah, his lap times are really decent, but right now it's 3 laps to the car in front of him, and there's nobody on track behind him. So right now he is just hoping that we get a yellow, and then everybody decides to have a pig pile in turn 1, and he can pick off a lot of spots. But right now, there's really nothing to gain by passing or holding anybody off. At the same time, though, maybe if a car behind him is a little bit slower, he could actually help them by towing them around the racetrack.
Doing it now as Whiteford goes past 1, goes past 2 cars into turn number 2 there. So, Benjamin Gregory holding up a little bit Dave Jinks, and Jinks is going to be frustrated by that one, as we can see that Gregory's going to go back down to the inside in towards turn number 1 over Whiteford. Now, this is one of these things that, you know, again, there are no blue flag rules in operation in the ISOWC IndyCar Series, but it's the responsibility of the passing driver to make a safe pass, and Gregory's got to be careful. If he does make a botched pass, he's not only losing his positions here, he will lose himself the opportunity to race in a future ISOWC event.
Yeah, there's racecraft and there's race respect, and for Whiteford and Jinks it can be very difficult because, again, going back to what I said earlier, when you're on the lead lap, yeah, you sort of have this sense of entitlement, the sense of, I'm on the lead lap, you're not, get out of my way. Why are you holding me up? Why are you here? Go away. And it can be very frustrating, and you can make an unforced error, as we saw Bubba Lambert do earlier this race. And Eric Davis now, well, the battle between Whiteford and Davis gonna start up again. Here we go.
Here we go indeed. So let's look from the rear of Rachel Whiteford in that GoDaddy number 7 machine. And just ahead of her is that driver of Eric Davis, the Canadian Banshee Autosports machines. They head themselves down in towards 3 once again as they continue to put on that pressure through turn number 3. Whiteford pushing high though, and well, that comes down, Aaron, to the anti-roll bars and weight jackers once again. Some of these drivers are more experienced than others, and Whiteford that time pushing up high in the exit of turn number 3. She's got to pay attention to that because she does it there. Likely she might do that once into turn number 1. The game over for her.
Yes, and once it's when you we're past through the 3/4 distance now, you do not want to make one of those errors. It's one thing to go out on lap 10 and think about what could have been, but at this point in time, you've now invested over 2 hours. You don't want something as silly as just misjudging dirty air to catch you out and end your race.
There you can see Rachel Whiteford. There you can see the speed ahead of Eric Davis, and Benjamin Gregory still pushing the envelope.
Yeah, although I guess he is staying there. Previous lap he could have made a move, did not. I think he's finally realized that there's nothing to gain now. He's only risking his car and the races of other people. So I think he's just going to keep a safe distance back, and, well, hopefully my words have been somehow transmitted to the helmet. But, yeah, right now nothing to gain, but has a very good seat for the battle that's going on.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. 3/4 of this, the ISOWC Pocono 500 are in the books, and that means it's time to run you through your field. Brought to you today by And1 Design. Well, out front, it is Chad Simpson who leads the way. He has led himself 88 laps of this event, Aaron. And, well, he started P2 running in that first position. Still got a battle, though, Mikel de Jong behind him.
Yes, he does, and a little bit of a gap now this previous lap. Well, they are mirroring each other's lap times, and perhaps the lap car and Ellen McBride did separate them, but it is going to come down to that final pit stop. I've talked about being conservative is good, but when it comes down for the race win, you're going to want to nail it. Those 0.2 of a second can't be the difference between shaking the draft or not. So for Simpson, may have a little bit of a cushion, 0.8, one of the biggest leads we've seen this race between the two, but definitely not a runaway yet.
Mikel de Jong runs in P2. He started this race on pole position. He has been there in the mix all day long in that Frostmaster Mad Cape and One design machine. He's been up and down the field as well. He's had himself 43 laps in today's event. The lowest he has run has been P number 11. Well, we know Mikel de Jong. We know he's very good on the road courses. Now he's showing his own force, Aaron, on the ovals, especially at Pocono.
Yeah, Pocono, it seems road course drivers do adapt to this track faster than the other ovals, perhaps because there are 3 different corners, so instead of driving the same corners twice, maybe it's a little bit more interesting for road racers. Don't know, but there isn't much more you can ask for than having 44 laps to go and being within a second of the race lead, and he is losing just a little bit from Simpson, but we saw this the previous cycle that he is much quicker on pit entry and exit, so lead up to just under a second, but again, not a runaway yet.
Yeah, there you can see de Jong to Remedy is 19 seconds. It really is a 2-horse race right now. We cycle it back to Stefan Remedy as he heads himself past the start and finish line. Now, the gap between himself and the race lead is up to 20.2 seconds. Remedy, though, having himself a good race overall, Aaron, as he has had himself a net gain of, get this, 22 positions.
Oh, how can you ask for a better day and not seem greedy? Right now, last rung of the podium, and what a race, and what a hard-fought race as well. He has had many just hard-fought battles, but never has put his car in a dangerous position. That's the thing. I hope people take note of that. You don't have to make bonsai moves to move your way up through the field. He has been aggressive, but has been in control, and that's why he's running 3rd right now, still in the race, and, you know, if the leaders have an issue, he's the next one in line.
Yeah, Remedy's got himself a 6.8 second advantage to Martin Nagel-Kirkin. Of course, Nagel-Kirkin, that last pit stop, it was a miserable one for him, Aaron. He was, well, slow in, overshot, undershot, pretty much did everything he could to mess up his pit stop. He lost himself 4 seconds in that one, which really was the difference between him being in the drive to Remedy and him now being stuck in that 4th position, being caught by Rachel Whitefoot.
If you want to make a YouTube video of how not to make a pit stop, Nagel-Kirkin's previous pit stop would probably be a very prime example of everything that's gone wrong all at once. Still though, 4th place, if he gets a yellow, he'll still have a chance at the podium or higher, but these last 40 laps gonna be just aggravating as he replays that pit stop over and over and over, and he's gonna have to be careful on that final pit stop not to let that bug him. He needs to get that out of his mind, and if his next pit stop is just half as good as the previous one, it will be a success.
He's up 12 positions in this race so far. Rachel Whitefoot in P5 is up 2 spots from where she qualified. Got herself pressure though from the driver of Eric Davis with 40 laps in this event to go. Now, Whitefoot been involved in a couple of controversial situations, one most notably with the driver until actually she's onto pit road. She was battling with that driver, Eric Davis, and of course that is where her big incident came, and she was hot onto pit road again.
Yeah, and was on the brakes hard, might have locked up the left front. It looked like she was on a rail towards the inside wall, but Yeah, you did use the word controversial. A couple bits of contact. She slides it in, and
That's
gonna
like
have
Power
to
in
back
2010 at Homestead when he had his damage to his right rear.
Yeah, slid it in, so that was another bit. So add another little bit to our ongoing reel of how not to make a pit stop. But off and away. Let's see. Keep it down low. Don't drift up, which I think that's going to be good there. But yeah, lots of you did use the word controversial. I think that would be the best word to describe her day so far.
Yeah, and just noticed there as well, she was so close to hitting that inside wall. Lucky to get away with that. Rachel Whiteford down in P number 9. That was very, very close, Aaron.
Yeah, what's hard to get on the pits here, if you do it properly, you start slowing down when you turn the wheels. And if you hit the brakes too hard, wherever the front end is pointed, it's going to want to keep going, and the rear end, whichever way it's rotating, is going to want to keep going. Now, if you lift off the brakes, you're going to speed. If you stay on the brakes, you risk sliding and going into a skid one way or another. So she had to stay on the brakes and not speed, and at the same time, hope that that inside wall didn't creep up and catch her out.
Yeah, here you can see Eric Davis on towards pit road, 1 lap longer than Rachel Whiteford. That is the effect of the draft. Now, can Davis get himself a good pit stop? He's nicely into his spot. A little bit conservative then. That might have been a message from his own pit crew saying, look, just be careful here. You've got the position over Whiteford. If you can just get it onto your pit stop, out of the way then. Pit stop time for Davis, 10.4 seconds. Let's cycle that camera around and see where he is on the racetrack compared to Whiteford. Whiteford is not there just yet. To head himself back onto the racetrack. It's 11.2 seconds for Whiteford. Well, Davis has clearly got that position there, Aaron.
Yeah, you're not going to gain anything when you have an entry like Whiteford and you overshoot and have to use the reverse. I mean, anytime you're in an IndyCar and you have to grab reverse, it's just not a good day. And not prone to good pit times. But we've seen Davis have this big of a lead before. I think Whiteford's car is faster, and but once she gets around Davis, the two just are sort of like magnets, can't get away from each other. And isn't that the way it works in racing, Will? Anytime you have any type of scuffle or any type of controversy with another driver, you're either going to start beside them in the next race, or the whole race you're going to be running right beside them.
I'm thinking Logano last year in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and you're completely right there. And it's also useful to bear in mind as well that with Whiteford, she is kind of continuing the curse of the RaceSpotTV people, because of course Hugo Luis, driver in the ISOWC World Championship Grand Prix Series, let's be frank here, he sucks as far as pit stops goes in that series. Whiteford kind of following along there with co-owner of RaceSpotTV with that miserable pit stop. Davis, though, he did himself a much better pit stop overall, but the gap is only classified as, get this, 0.1 of a second as Whiteford is back alongside, back passing towards turn number 1. Whiteford takes that position back once again.
I have to think Davis is in fuel conservation mode. They pitted on lap 160. You can typically go 34 to 38 laps. That's more laps than what you could run at full rich. So I think Davis has turned it down, or he's going to have to make one more pit stop than everybody else.
Well, that's the issue. Whiteford was just outside of fuel window there. Davis, he was just at the point where if he saves, he might be able to make it. So this is going to be a fascinating conclusion. You see there, Davis just allowing cars to breeze past him. That's Martin Eagle-Kirken there. Just going past the side by side through track. Did Eagle-Kirken hit the wall there?
It was close. I think he was in the good. It was very close. Eagle-Kirken was not prepared for whatever just happened, and I don't think he thought Davis was just going to give him the position like that, and did a very early entry, which set him out. And Davis, then the speed difference, Davis, again, that's about the third time we've seen great reflexes out of Davis lifting for the car in front. That could have been disastrous for both drivers.
Mikael de Jong on pit road making what he'll be his final pit stop, we think, of the day. Fuel saving will come into play here. It's going to be a little bit like any classic Indy 500 race, or of course, Spring Tagi race from a couple of years back, where Danica Patrick famously won that one. But it's a long pit stop, very long pit stop for Mikael de Jong. He still scored on pit road. This could end up giving the race to Chad Simpson. Mikael de Jong has just thrown this race away, Aaron.
Oh, that is... Actually, was he out of... Something was wrong with his car. He came in very slow. He was only doing 100 miles. Did he hit the wall?
Let's get ourselves a replay. Let's figure this one out.
Yes, he did. Out of turn 3. Out of turn 3, lap 164, he hit the wall.
Yeah, and you can
Race
see
over.
this is him on the previous lap. So we'll get ourselves a replay for him then. Let's get a look at Mikel de Jong. This is him working himself through turn number 2. And Mikel de Jong and the Mad Cape 1 design team, one of the drivers who have just been absolutely phenomenal all race long. And the Mad Cape 1 design team have been great. They've been leading this field, but down towards turn number 3. Let's get ourselves a super slow-mo replay of this one then. Brought to you by And1 Design, no pun intended. Down towards turn number 3 he comes. And let's get ourselves a close look at this one then for that Mad Cape Racing driver of Mikel de Jong. And he has had himself, this is not a mistake you normally expect from Mikel de Jong at all. He is still on pit road. This pit stop time is taking an eternity for him. His race is done. Exit of turn number 3, Aaron. He just brushes high and it is game over for that driver.
Have to wonder, chalk that up to long race fatigue, maybe behind on the adjustments. We are now 2 hours 21 minutes into this race, another long green flag run, and well, I often say it's a lot easier running in traffic for a long time than it is when you're running by yourself. Your mind can wander. You start thinking about other things. You become desensitized to the fact that you're running 220 miles an hour and you have to hit your marks absolutely perfect. It doesn't take much. Half a tenth of a second late turn in can end your race. It doesn't take much. So I wonder, do we chalk that up to maybe just a little bit of fatigue there?
Big Cordell running himself in the 4th position right now, getting himself past the lap car, and also getting himself past Martin Nagel-Kirken as well. Fuel strategy is going to become crucially important over the course of the last 31 laps of this, the ISOWC Pocono 500. We're going to take the opportunity to step aside one more time. We'll be back after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV, the home of the greatest series in the world.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun.
What is it about speed? Do these rivals chase speed because they can? Or because they can't help it? IndyCar. The heart of racing. Go to IndyCar.com for live timing and scoring, upcoming race details, and to join the conversation.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You saw it on RaceSpotTV side by side. Scott W. Smith having himself an incident there. This is down in turn number 2 on the racetrack. The fatigue is kicking in, Aaron. Now down to 12 drivers in this event. And Scott W. Smith, it looks like his race is done.
Yeah, the fatigue factor kicking in, which means at any point in time, the yellow flag possibly could come out, as it doesn't take much now for any of these drivers to have an issue, but you have to be in proximity of a car to have an issue. So that's another thing. You can't have an issue all by yourself and nobody be around and not trigger the yellow. So that's another aspect we have to keep in mind.
But a couple of these drivers will really want a caution, because Dave Jinks come in. He is good to go to the end of this race. Martin Michael-Kirkin is on pit road as well. So like Cam Walsh into the booth. It's going to be a 9-second pit stop there for Nagel-Kirkin. He is back out of the way. He is good to go to the end, Cam.
Yes, he is. Martin Nagel-Kirkin getting back on track in that black and gray and orange Dallara DW12. Looking very good out there, that Banshee Autosport automobile. And good 9-second spot, good splash, good to the finish. And here we are at Pocono. I know the race has been going on for some time, but I'm here now. Hey.
Yeah. Is riding on board and Whiteford once again. And guess what, Aaron? She's back alongside the rear of Eric Davis.
Oh, at this point in time, I don't know what Eric Davis is thinking. I don't know if they're going to exchange birthday cards or Christmas cookies or anything at this point in time, as both drivers may be a little angry with each other. Then again, that was 130 laps ago. Maybe they've forgotten. No, race drivers don't forget.
Well, and also, you can just hear the engine note as well, Cam. Both Whiteford and Davis are seriously saving fuel. Last time by, they were 1.3 seconds slower than your race leader, Chad Simpson.
Yes, and well, I mean, they are a lap down, so the closest car ahead of them is Chad Simpson. Martin Nagel-Kirkin is well over 30 seconds ahead of them, so these two are fighting with each other to the very end, obviously, because the end is when the race is over. But I've been seeing Whiteford. She's been pushing Davis. She goes down deep into the corner, and it's almost like Davis is washing out almost with these corners. So I'm not sure necessarily how long this has been going on. I'm guessing all race. And but Davis keeps tracking up closer to that wall every single time that they believe they go through the tri-oval turn number 2 here at Pocono. And I just wonder how many times they can do that before somebody clips the outside wall and has a very bad time.
Michael-Kirkin running himself in P number 4, still in many laps down, as Benjamin Gregory still there, still stalking. This is with 20 laps to go, and of course he is now on a point that even if there was cautions to the end of this race, Aaron, he wouldn't be able to get his 5 laps back. So race control surely would just give him a message to just back off.
Yeah, and I don't. When you're a race driver, you do just want to stay in there, and maybe he enjoys. He could be experimenting with dirty air, different settings. I don't know. He hasn't made any attempt to make a pass, and for Nagel-Kirkin, I'm sure he knows that Gregory isn't going to be going anywhere, but at the same time, it can be a little disconcerting having that car constantly behind you.
Yeah, as they work themselves now. Oh, you can see through turn number 3 once again. 19 laps for this race to go. We are joined at this time by Scott W. Smith, unfortunately classified as out of the race. They can see him on pit road. And Scott, take us through what happened.
Well, race overall was good. 2 black flags for speeding, and then pancaked the wall twice, and see you later. Looks like I'll finish 13th.
Well, take us through how hard it is to actually pit at this racetrack, because you come out of turn number 3, it's the optimal way to pit, and it's one of the few tracks in the ISOWC IndyCar Series where you're encouraged to pit off of turn 3. But here today, it did look as though that it was very difficult for some drivers getting onto pit road.
Agreed wholeheartedly. The second black flag, actually, I was right behind Eric. And what happened was we both came in very hot, and Eric got slowed down faster than I did, unfortunately. It is very difficult, especially with this, with turn 3 being like Milwaukee, as they say. It's crazy, but it was fun.
Well, unfortunately, you are out of the race. You will get a P13 overall, of course. Next time out, we'll head ourselves over to Phoenix, the 1 mile racetrack down in the desert. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, overall, it should be fun. This season has been a pleasant surprise thus far, and see what goes on in Phoenix.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in 1 week's time over at Phoenix International Raceway. Continue to look at this battle for P3, P4, and it's interesting to note that these drivers, they think they are good to go to the end of this race, Aaron.
Yeah, and they very well should be. I think only 2 drivers are going to be on the outside window, but everybody else should be good to go. And one thing we didn't mention, with the issue that De Jong had, Stefan Remedy moves up another spot. So just an unbelievable day.
As you can see there, the gap between Cordell and your race leader, 38 seconds, Campbell. You've got Michael Kirkin right behind him, 16 down to 15 laps to go in just a couple of moments' time.
Yes, 15 to go relatively soon. They're coming up on the lap car of Leandro Matos, who's in position number 10. Very good position there to be in, but right now is going way wide, letting everybody through. They're going to quickly run out of room coming out of the exit. No, they won't. They'll all be on the inside there. Pocono wide enough, at least at that part, to let everybody through. Nice and easy for Vic Caudill, Martin Nagelkirchen, and Benjamin Gregory. Of course, Gregory not in the fight, but he is obviously sucking up and trying to save as much fuel as he possibly can. Ultimately, though, Vic Caudill with the gap, I almost wonder, I don't think Nagelkirchen is driving defensively, but at the same time, that Dallara is moving quite, using a lot of this track, Will.
Yeah, and let's have a look back to Eric Davis. Last time by a 31.392. They have picked up the pace, and maybe, just maybe, they have done enough to get themselves what they need in this race. And we'll get a word from Mikel de Jong in just a moment's time. But, well, Aaron, looks like this battle for P5, P6. It's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, when Davis let Whiteford by, so I don't think Davis is in the good. He let her by to let her burn more fuel. And remember, Whiteford pitted 1 lap earlier, so if Davis isn't good, most certainly Whiteford is not going to be in the good.
Yeah, and we'll circle that last lap time for you for both of these drivers. There you are. For Davis, a 31.3. For Whiteford, it's a 31.3 as well also. Compare that to your fastest laps a little bit further ahead. They're doing 31.3s also. So 41.3s, I'll take that one back. As you can see, they head themselves down towards the start-finish line once again. So either they both realise that there's nothing they can do, or they are both good to go to the end of the race. Going to have a chat now with Mikel de Jong. He is coming classified down in the 14th position in this race, and what a sad day it's been for you, Mikel. You led at one stage of this race, but now your car's on pit road, it's damaged, and it doesn't look as though you're going to get back out.
No, my car is not Will. Yeah, that was a really good race for me. My car was amazing, and mainly because of Chad Simpson. Actually, we did some setup work together a few days ago, and I had no trouble throughout the whole race. I was just trading places and driving behind Chad, saving fuel and just planning the strategy, and then I just had a little lapse of concentration and then hit the wall.
Well, the opportunity to get 1 and 2 for the Satellite / Madcape / N1 Design trio, it's unfortunately gone by the wayside. But we're going to another oval in 1 week's time. Phoenix is a very different type of oval, but it's one that again also suits road drivers so often. Looking forward to when we head to the desert in a week's time.
Phoenix has not really been good for me in the past. It's like you say, a very different, very difficult track to set up. So I'm looking forward to the challenge, but I'm not sure if we're going to be as much on pace as we were today.
Well, Mikel de Jong, unfortunately, going to be classified down in 14th position on the racetrack. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Top 8 drivers right now are Simpson from Remedy, from Cordell, from Nagelkirchen, Whiteford, Davis, Jinx, and Mura, as we are entering the final 25 miles of this race cam.
Now that we are in Vic Caudell still using as much of this track as possible. These Stellaris, they are washing in this wind here and moving all over. As Niall McBride deciding he didn't have enough fuel as well, dropped from 8th position now down to 11th. But other than that, though, everybody is just holding with their guns. They are making this decision. It's 10 laps to go. And right now, Chad Simpson with that commanding lead all the way out front. We haven't really talked about him, at least since I showed up here. He's been doing just a very good job, still very low lap times. In fact, he is only 1/10 of a second off of his fastest lap. But so he's been doing a very good job. Is he good on fuel, I'm guessing?
Well, Simpson looks as though he is, because he's doing 40.7. Everyone else is doing at least 41.0s. Remedy is being caught by Cordell right now, and the gap is down to 7 tenths of a second, 9 laps to go.
And not only that, but this is happening about 2 seconds in front of our race leader. So a chance to do the impressive and lap the field. So I don't think he's going to risk his race, but if he wants to, he could put a... definitely make a statement and get a lap on everybody.
Can I hear you say the words Young-O?
That was his challenge every race, I know, on the road courses. He missed out at it, I think, 3 16th Street seasons ago, whenever it was, but missed out by lapping second place by about 1 second, and in his winner's interview was rather dejected about it.
He was. There you can see then a look from our aerial coverage today, brought to you by And1 Design, with 8 laps remaining in this, the ISOWC Pocono 500. As well, we've had ourselves a high attrition rate. As you can see, Cordell is going to move himself past Remedy. Oh! Contact there between Remedy and Nagelkirchen. That is to turn number 2. That could have been catastrophic, not just for this battle between Nagelkirchen and Remedy, but let's not forget, Chad Simpson is right behind him on the racetrack, and he is dropped back in a hurry because of that.
That's where you go, eject,
countering.
get out of there.
As it was a 41.4 last time by for Simpson. There you can see Vic Cordell in second, and it's going to be a counter indeed, Cam, for Remedy. He's looking down to the outside to put himself down in towards turn number 2 once again.
Well, perhaps he just needed a kick in the rear end as he is going to the inside of Vic Caudell. Nagelkirchen, very scary smoke screen developing right in front of his face there, as he had to back way off, and now Stefan Remedy is back up ahead of Vic Caudell, but Vic Caudell, now they're starting to play the slice and dice game, which we see in this IndyCar so much. Somebody takes the outside line, somebody takes the inside line, and then they all cut in. Vic Caudell now ahead of Stefan Remedy, with Martin Nagelkirchen catching right behind, with these two guys slowing each other down. 6 laps to go.
Mora in the pits from 8th, so short on fuel.
There you can see Moya. Actually, we'll turn our attentions over to him. There you can see the number 25 car on pit road. Final pit stop of the day, 6 seconds back out and away. As Whiteford's on pit road as well, Aaron.
So obviously came up short there, which means expect Davis in the next 1 or 2 laps, unless somehow he was able to save 6 laps of fuel, which if he does, Race Tech will be looking to see just how big his fuel tank actually was.
Like a Dale Earnhardt, or was it Dale Earnhardt, or was it Richard Petty style fuel tanks?
Believe it was Petty.
Yeah.
You see, this is how much I care about NASCAR. IndyCar, the greatest series in the world. Don't forget, by the way, it's on NBC Sports Network tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. If you live in Europe, you can catch it on ESPN Player. Bada bum, bada bum. In fact, you know what? NOLA.
NOLA.
Yeah, NOLA Motorsports Park.
Good.
Nagelkirchen has a very good view, just wondering what can he do to get around those front 2 cars. Remember, I said it about lap 70. Remember that if you're that 3rd car in line, that draft very hard to make a move. So really, unless he gets a 2-for-1 special, as Remedy once again looks to the inside, but Remedy just doesn't have the straight line speed on the main straightaway. His car is much faster on 1 and 2, and there's that botched pass. That's going to give Nagelkirchen the inside.
Yeah, Nagelkirchen looking down to the inside. 4 laps to go. Last 10 miles of racing here in the ISOWC Pocono 500. Down to the inside will go. Nagelkirchen battle for P number 3 on the racetrack. And Nagelkirchen moves himself up into a podium position. Oh, but Remedy running high there. There's cars, lap traffic all over the place as they're going to be too wide through turn number 3. 3 laps to go this time by. It's all on all of a sudden, Aaron.
I like that move by Remedy using the lap cars draft instead of Nagelkirchen. He's going to look to the outside. We know how strong Remedy is on the outside in 1. Can he get it done? Meanwhile, Vic is just loving this as this is almost solidifying second, but will Remedy go for third here? If he goes for third, I can almost guarantee neither of these drivers have a shot for second, but I've been wrong before. Here comes Remedy to the inside. Who's going to give in 2? And that was a clean pass, so yeah, they are going to have a chance for second. So commentator's curse right there as Remedy's going to go for it right now.
He's going to look to the outside, and in turn number 3, we've got ourselves just a handful of laps to go in this, the 5th annual ISOWC Pocono 500. Down to the outside then goes Stefan Remedy battling side by side. A flag here, caution would end it. 5 miles of racing to go. Out front it is Chad Simpson. A glorious victory for him. Pretty much guaranteed right now. So this is the battle for P number 2, P number 3. Looking from the rear of Vic Cordell. This is incredible. Incredible stuff, Cam. As that driver, Chad Simpson, is going to work himself and take the white flag this time by.
Well, that he is. Remedy doing exactly what he did last time, going between Nagelkirchen and Caudell's car into the outside. He's trying to work that outside line, and of course, Benjamin Gregory's just sitting down in the back. He's trying to stay back, but these guys are fighting. They're slowing each other up, and this is a great seat for Chad Simpson, most certainly, but these guys going too wide into turn 1 once again. I almost wonder Remedy does always have to back out here, but he should have the line going between 1 and 2. He stays way up high, though. These cars definitely trying their best here, but I don't think Nagelkirchen is going to be able to catch up this time by.
So just a couple of corners now left to go for Chad Simpson. Ahead of him, you still got a lap though for Vic Cordell versus Stephen Remedy versus Nigel Nagelkirchen. They work themselves through turn number 3. They will see the white flag this time by, but behind them, the driver of Chad Simpson. Absolutely dominant performance by him. He will claim victory in the ISOWC Pocono 500. Still plenty of action to go. By the way, Eric Davis will stay ahead of Rachel Whiteford, and Nagelkirchen has slowed it down there through turn number 1. He looks as though he is indeed going to be choking here. He's going to run it to the line. He'll try. We can hear the engine blipping for him. These drivers were a little bit close for him. Cordell from Remedy, 1/10 of a second to the outside looks Remedy, down towards turn 3 and 4. This is where Remedy's been so strong all race long. Battle for P number 2. Who will get it at the final corner? They make contact. Remedy into the wall. Remedy into the wall there. Final corner. It'll be Cordell leading from Remedy. Would it be him or would it be Nagelkirchen? It would be Remedy, then Nagelkirchen. But that was incredibly close. Last corner of the last lap of the race there, Aaron.
Oh, almost threw away a podium, which would have been tragic after such a good race. But, oh, the fuel things for Nagelkirchen cost him that podium spot. Just turned in a little early misjudging when Vic was going to turn. Just tapped the wall, but if you're going to have that happen, much better to have 200 than lap 2.
Yeah, as you can see, P2, P3, and P4. Dave Jinks, what a finish by him here today, Aaron. P number 5, his best finish in a while in the ISOWC IndyCar Series.
Indeed, we did not talk much about him, which I often say sometimes that's really good. If we aren't mentioning your name all that often, that means you're having a really smooth, clean day. So 5th place, great run.
And then you've got yourself in, just working himself now towards the end of the race. So the rest of the drivers who completed this, the ISOWC Pocono 500. And let's run yourself then through your final race results. Well, when all was said and done, it was the driver of Chad Simpson who came home in victory with a time between himself and P2 of 39.5 seconds. Stephen Remedy in 3rd, Martin Nagelkirchen in 4th, Dave Jinks in 5th, then Eric Davis in the 6th position, Rachel Whiteford in 7th, Andrew Kinsella in 8th, Gilbert Murray in 9th, and Noah McBride running out your top 10. We head on back, and there you can see Leonardo Matos in 11th, Benjamin Gregory in 12th, Scott W. Smith in 13th, Mikel de Jong in 14th, Oakley Hingham in 15th, Philippe Leber, Andy DeRuta, Andreas Warner, Matt Strand, and Gorg Nudrox rounding out your top 20. And then it'll be Santos, Roland, Pomfrey, Jr., and Kind and Brazil who round out your field here in the 5th annual ISOWC Pocono 500. We'll step aside for just one moment, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back for post-race interviews after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV, home of the 2015 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500.
What is it about speed? Do these rivals chase speed because they can? Or because they can't help it? IndyCar. The heart of racing. Go to IndyCar.com for live timing and scoring, upcoming race details, and to join the conversation.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpotTV, where Chad Simpson scored himself a dominant victory in the 5th annual ISOWC Pocono 500, and he is right here in Victory Lane. And Chad, welcome to ISOWC Victory Lane, and what has been an incredible performance by you here today?
Thanks, Will. That was, for me, a pretty fun race. I got to watch a really nice battle there at the end.
Well, yeah, we'll start with the last 10 laps, because you had the opportunity to almost lap the field here today, and then you saw that battle going on ahead of you, and we saw almost a wreck right in front of you, and you then decided, we might just back off a little bit.
Yeah, I saw somebody toss up some smoke there in turn 2 with about 10 to go, and I was like, nope, I'm not going for it.
Well, let's talk about now the main bulk of the race, because yourself and Mikel de Jong were working together, the two teammates, yourself and de Jong, being able to pull out a gap, and we saw the whole kind of slipstream drafting, which we saw the 16 Street Racing League Indy 500 back a couple of years ago. These cold temperatures means that these drivers are generally very close. How did you use that to your advantage?
Well, my car was pretty trimmed out towards the end of the race. It wasn't quite as good at the beginning. So I was good in clean air, and Michelle had a little bit more downforce, so he could run behind me, and we just kind of used that to help build a gap.
And, of course, then when your teammate de Jong found himself out of the race, you're pretty much there by yourself. How difficult is it when you are so far ahead to manage that gap?
You just got to make sure you don't keep it off the wall. You just work the traffic. There was one time where I was racing, I don't remember who, but I caught somebody and it just pushed really bad, and it was like, you know, I don't really want to go 100% right now.
Well, well done on race victory for the And One Design Stroke Mad Cape team, Stroke Satellite team. Is there any more strokes you want to put in that one at all?
I'm sure we could find some more strokes, but I don't want to make it any more harder on you.
Would you like to have RaceSpot sponsor you? Make it Stroke RaceSpot?
Stroke RaceSpot, Stroke Will Vincent Racing.
Yeah, why not? Chad Simpson, well, before we let you go, time to give a shout out to anyone you want to give a shout out to.
Michelle, thanks for helping me build that setup. It took a whole 30-45 minutes to build. Satellite guys hosting me. Mad Kate hosting the session. Thanks, guys.
That's some dominant victory here today in number 42 Satellite Stroke Mad Cape Stroke and One design car. Second place goes to Vic Cordell. He's not here. He doesn't like talking to us. He's eating a Habit Burger right now. We haven't got a chance to talk to Stephen Remedy either, so we'll head on down the field a little bit to Martin Kirkin, who came home in P4. He is stood by with the one and only Aaron Likens.
Martin Kirkin, fourth place. You were running up third, second. That final lap, what were you just short on fuel a little bit?
No, I just couldn't get it done. I think Vic had a slightly better trimmed out car, Stefan probably as well, so I just couldn't make the pass. I really tried. I had a shot at second, but in the end it was 3 cars fighting for that spot and I was the last one.
Saw lots of passing out there. Was the draft, how massive was it here today? Because we saw lots of draft passes. Did that make it really enjoyable to race with?
Yeah, it becomes sort of high stakes, high speeds chess game. If you have a good run out of a turn and you can catch that draft, you can make a really good run and move on somebody. But the trick then is to actually ditch them, because they can just draft back up to you. So you really have to plan your moves.
With the weather conditions, was the dirty air not as profound as it's been in maybe some other races here? Didn't see as many people hit the wall out of one, so just wondering, was the dirty air not as bad as sometimes what we see?
I think that's right. I have to say I ran a fairly high downforce setup most of the race, but I found it easy to drive. It was much more controllable than in other weather conditions.
Well, fourth place, second person we've talked to. Anybody you want to give a shout out for your race here today?
Yeah, all the other races for racing hard and fair, and definitely Vic for helping with the setup, and a good race for Vic and Stefan, and well done Chad, nice win.
That is fourth place and a very exciting race to watch. That's Martin Kirkin.
Yeah, Kirkin coming home in the 4th place here today. Rachel Whiteford came home in the 7th position, and she stood by with Rachel Whiteford.
Right, so apparently I'm interviewing myself. So, Rachel, P7 today. Of course, you qualified P7, P8 on the grid, so, well, how was it for you? Well, thank you, Rachel. It was an incredible race, so tough, so long. Got to thank Banshee Autosport, because some of their engineering help really brought me forwards. Of course, as an independent driver, it's really tough. Got to thank them for that, especially Vic Cordell. Yeah, P7. I got a penalty halfway through for a late pit entry, and it kind of cost me. But thankfully, I managed to crawl it back at the end and come back with a top 10, so I'm very happy. Well, thanks, Rachel. Back to you, Will.
Indeed, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. As we've got ourselves also the driver of Andrew Kinsella here. He doesn't actually know that I'm about to interview him, but he has stood by Andrew Kinsella with Cam Walsh.
Andrew Kinsella, you just got done racing here at Pocono. Quite a few long race in the DW12, the ISOWC. Well, why don't you just tell me how your race went? If he's even there. If you're there. Just tell me how it went. A little bit? No?
Anybody? No. Dust.
No, all
Dust.
right.
Anybody?
Dang.
Nope. We'll kind of come back to Andrew in a moment's time. We've also got ourselves here the driver of Andreas Warner, who did finish this race. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Andreas Warner, 08 car. Hi, how you doing?
No, I did not finish.
You didn't. I know you didn't. What happened?
Let me think what happened. There was a lapped car in front of me that got pretty wide. I think because of error push. He scrapped into the wall and then turned into the inside, and in the inside there was me, and yeah, over again for me. So again, I was not able to finish an oval race.
Well, you seem to have had horrendous luck on ovals, and next week we head ourselves to another oval at Phoenix, which is arguably one of the toughest ovals in the entire schedule. One of the shortest ovals we go to, but unlike Iowa Speedway, you're going to have to lift. It's a very road course track in some ways. Do you think that might give you a bit of an advantage?
Well, maybe. I mean, I had a good feeling at Milwaukee last year, so could run better than the last ovals I did. I mean, today it could have been a good race, but the car was not built for traffic. I mean, you could tell by the speed of Chad Simpson and Michel Leyoung that this car was doing in clean air 40.7 lap times, and I could have done it as well, but I was surrounded by cars all the time, and in traffic I was totally in traffic I totally had big problems, and yeah, that's why I was fighting all the time with other cars.
Well, it's been a tough race for you. We'll see you in 1 week's time. Andreas Warner in the And1 Design stroke Mad Cape team car, coming home here today in the 19th position on the racetrack. Got a couple more people to talk to before we go off air. We have got ourselves, first of all, the driver of, let's figure out who came higher. Nana Pride coming home in P7. He stood by with the one and only Aaron Likens.
So let's see. Sorry, I was just about to go there. I was just typing something. So P7, how was your? Take us through your race.
Pretty sure I finished 10th.
Yeah, I finished 10th.
10th. My live timing and scoring sucks.
Yeah.
I'm only given the information I'm given. So
P10. It's okay. It was the best I could do. Like the setup I was using was a season outdated, and wasn't really sure what to expect, and there was no straight line speed, so not much I could really do to keep up with the guys in front of me.
So though, P10, strong finish. Any close calls in the race? Any moments that stick out?
Not really. I was just drafting people, keeping to myself, not really pushing that hard. Like the car didn't feel. The car was really stable. Like considering the amount of downforce I had, it had no really issues with hitting the wall or anything. Like there was that issue on the first restart when Stuart Pumphrey didn't go and caused a huge wreck, and I got involved in that, and that was really the only major issue for me.
So a 500-mile, just out for a Sunday afternoon drive. Anybody you want to thank for your old setup or whatnot?
I'd say Nigel, because he had some idea how to make it more drivable for this build, for have him the tank, and also the team for building the setup in the first place. Matt and Ray and all them.
Oh, that is P10, and for as old as he said the setup was, that's not too bad. That is Nigel McBride.
Indeed, so we get the chance now, after he stuffed his face with a habit burger and talked to the Fuzzy Girls. Mr. Vic Cordell, P2 on the podium here today. How was your race?
Long, Will, long. But didn't have the right gearing in the car there, and had too much downforce to start with, and just kept pilling like a banana, and finally got something halfway decent, but still had the wrong gear.
Well, at the end of this event, you were scored very close to Stefan Remedy, Nigel Makel-Kirk, and you were able to hold on to that second place. Just how tough was it the last 10 laps of this event?
It was pretty tough. I knew I had a faster car than them two, but they had the downforce, which you can get, a good run with the downforce and hang with a faster car, and it was watching a lot of mirror.
Well, we know that you're very good at the next track, Phoenix. How good are you going to be at Phoenix in a week's time? Here, RaceSpotTV.
We're going to bring a car, and we're going to bring a car to win.
Ladies and gentlemen, fighting talk there from Vic Cordell in that number 33 car as he comes home in second place here today. Now, Vic, you going to go and have another habit burger?
Probably so, but it's a long trip to California, and that's the only place you can get a habit burger.
Well, we'll just give you a voucher to In-N-Out or something instead. But hey, Vic Cordell coming home in second place here today. And almost finally, we're going to have a chat with Mr. Jinx, Mr. Dave Jinx. Hello, Mr. Dave Jinx. How are you?
I'm doing well, Will. That was a fun race for me. I enjoyed it.
P5 is one of your best finishes in the ISOWC IndyCar Series in quite a while, and actually now 2 good results for you in a row. How tough was that race being that number 76 Broken Arrow car?
Well, the toughest part was surviving with the little bit of damage I got on that one restart where there was a checkup. I got a little bump from behind there, and it slowed down the straight line speed, but I was able to hang in.
Now, the last 2 races, we've had ourselves a street course, we've had ourselves a super speedway. Next time, we go to a 1 mile oval, the second shortest oval in the season. What can that Broken Arrow number 7016 bring to the table once we head to Phoenix?
Well, it's been a while since I actually raced with other cars at Phoenix, so we're going to find out. I know I'll give it a good shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Jinks coming home in P5 here today in the ISOWC Pocono 500. And let's see, is Andrew Kinsella here?
Hi.
Yay! He stood by with Aaron Likens. Aaron, take it away.
Well, I think this was originally Cam, so I will defer to Cam. He sounded anxious to do this.
Yes. So, all right. Well, it's been a long time coming, this interview, but Pocono, 200 laps, a long race, a lot of fighting. You finished in 8th position, Andrew. How did your race go there, Mr. Kinsella?
It was actually a fairly eventful race for me. First of all, gotta say, really sorry to the field on that restart. The first restart there just had the wrong engine map. Rookie mistake from a rookie driver. But then finally worked my way back up there, and then managed to drift wide in turn 1 and hit the wall. And then just didn't have the speed coming anymore.
Well, I mean, it's a tough old girl here, Pocono, getting on pit lane, getting everything sorted out. But rookie mistake, of course, here, something you might not want to remember, certainly. But Phoenix is coming up. Do you think you're going to be doing better there at Phoenix?
I hope so. This is my first season actually driving the DW12 and my first few races, so I'm just starting to get into the hang of the car, and I'm really hoping that the setup that I was able to develop for Pocono, the knowledge that I got doing that setup will translate, not necessarily the setup itself, but the knowledge will translate into setting up the car a little bit quicker for Phoenix.
Well, Andrew Kinsella, thank you very much for coming in and interviewing with us. We'll keep an eye on you there at Phoenix in the future, and hopefully we can see you coming in something higher than 8th maybe in the future, of course. We will have to see. Now we will get this over to Will Vincent. I believe we are finally done.
We're not. We've got 2 things to mention. First of all, Stefan Remedy. He said that P3 is like floating around the stream like a word lies. Good racing for P2 with Vic and Margin. A little scary on the last lap, but he'll gladly take P3. And finally, over to Aaron Likens for a word with Average Chronic Racing's Benjamin Gregory.
So, Ben Gregory, lots of speed here today, but what put you down that far?
Actually, disconnect. It was a really, really unfortunate disconnect. I was running pretty well, I think 7th, and then all of a sudden, pop, the whole thing went. And I just joined it back in 5 laps down and just tried to make do, really.
Well, you do set the fastest lap of the race. If it weren't for the misfortune, would you have had anything for a podium?
I had no idea I set the fastest lap. No, I think I could have maybe fought for top 5, maybe. But I'm not going to push to the podium, maybe. Those guys were ridiculously quick. I was only just hanging on by the end.
Well, only hanging on, but still fastest lap of the race at a 40.58, so about 400s faster than anybody else went today. So, hey, fastest lap of the race, but if luck were a little different, would have been a different result, but Benjamin Gregory, despite the misfortune, showed some really fast speed here today.
Indeed he did. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our webcast of the 3rd round of the ISOWC IndyCar Series. In just 1 week's time, we head ourselves over to Phoenix International Raceway. But don't forget, before we get to that, we've got ourselves coverage of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup tomorrow, the RaceSpotTV Commentary School tomorrow, Club UK Island, Monday Night Skippies on Monday, surprisingly enough, Champions of the Future on Tuesday, the return of the STC Blue Cup on Thursday, before we get ourselves to are you ready, guys? The ISOWC Phoenix International Raceway, Saturday, 18th of March, 6 p.m. GMT, only on the world's greatest sim racing broadcaster. Watch it! Watch it! Yeah, so that'll be in 1 week's time, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the ISOWC IndyCar Series from Pocono. As it's been, farewell from myself, Will Vincent, from Aaron Likens, and from Cam Walsh. We shall talk to you next time. Bye-bye.